Chapter 324. Swords were known for their sharpness, and their attacks were extremely powerful. Sword cultivators from the sword extinction sect were all extremely dangerous. A cultivator at the 6th level of Yuanfu from the sword extinction sect actually used a sword attack. For cultivators at the 7th or 8th level of Yuanfu, even those at the 9th level of Yuanfu wouldn't dare to disregard their attacks. However, Qin Wentian used his bare hands to directly grab hold of the sharpness of the sword. Not only that, his movements were so precise that there was no mistaking it. Only to see Qin Wentian's palms flickering with demonic qi. The countenances of the two cultivators from the sword extinction sect froze, but their reactions were also extremely fast. Sword qi gushed forth from the tip of their swords, causing Qin Wentian to loosen his grip. Their silhouettes intertwined, transforming into a resplendent beam of light, as the two swords slashed down onto Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian still stood there, calmly staring at the two of them. At this instant, the countenances of the two cultivators paled. Their attacks were completely disregarded. Not only did Qin Wentian use his bare hands to grab hold of the sword, he even allowed their attacks to land on his body. Even Lin Haoyan was dumbfounded as he stared at the scene in front of him. How was this possible? How powerful were the attacks of the two cultivators? Yet they couldn't even break through Qin Wentian's defense? Sword extinction sect? You want me to meet you with just your level of strength? Qin Wentian calmly replied. His physique was akin to a demonic beast, and his physique was many times stronger compared to ordinary humans. Cultivators at the 6th level of Yuanfu were equivalent to demonic beasts at the peak of the 6th level of Yuanfu. Demonic beasts at the 6th level of Yuanfu had a physique that could withstand attacks from cultivators at the same level as them. Although they might not be able to withstand the might of a sword cultivator, Qin Wentian was different. Not only did he have the physique of a demonic beast, his mandate of demons had also reached the perfection boundary of the 1st level of the mandate of force. Therefore, Qin Wentian could ignore his opponent's attack. When the two of them heard Qin Wentian's words, they already wanted to retreat. Both of them could be considered extraordinary characters, hence they were able to enter the unmatched realm to cultivate. Yet, they couldn't even break through Qin Wentian's defenses. How could they continue to fight? In the instant that they retreated, Qin Wentian struck out with both of his palms at the same time, transforming into a gigantic demonic seal with terrifying demonic qi that instantly blasted onto the two of them. With a loud bang, the two of them were sent flying. Their auras fluctuated and they coughed up blood. Their faces were deathly pale. They couldn't break through Qin Wentian's defense, but a casual attack from Qin Wentian was something they couldn't withstand. This strength. Ouyang Guangxing's eyes gleamed with sharpness. This fellow's strength was too terrifying. Qin Wentian looked at Lin Haoyan, only to see him staring at him, but not making a move. Why aren't you attacking yet? Qin Wentian mocked. Lin Haoyan's eyes flashed with a hint of trepidation. Based on the strength Qin Wentian had displayed earlier, there was a high possibility that Qin Wentian would be able to defeat him. If that happened, it would be a huge blow to his reputation. He was a heaven's chosen of the sword extinction sect, and his cultivation base was higher than Qin Wentian's. If he was defeated, how would others view him? Seems like you've made some improvements, worthy of me taking you seriously. Lin Haoyan's sword intent gushed forth frenziedly. Instantly, with him as the center, a terrifying tempest manifested in the heavens and earth. He took a step forwards as a towering sword might gushed forth, aiming for Qin Wentian's throat. In this entire space, it was as though only the humming of swords could be heard. What a powerful sword force! His sword intent is also at the transformative plane. In addition, Lin Haoyan's wind intent is also at the transformative plane. The wind is contained within the sword, and the sword is like the wind. How terrifying is its power! The crowd could feel the sword might surrounding Lin Haoyan, as though it was going to tear everything apart. No matter how strong the defense of Qin Wentian's body was, he would not dare to withstand such a sword might. With a single strike of the sword, a person would be cut in half. Boom! Lin Haoyan took another step forward. With every step he took, his aura grew stronger. Even the spectators who were standing far away could clearly feel how terrifying the sword might was. It was as if it was going to tear space apart. However, as Lin Haoyan took another step forward, The boundless sword might began to converge in front of Lin Haotian. All the sword might was aimed at Qin Wentian. Once the Sword of Extinction was unleashed, it would be a sure kill attack. The Sword Extinction Sect's Sword Extinction Technique. Once the sword was unleashed, ghosts and gods would be frightened, and all life would be extinguished. Qin Wentian could already feel the terrifying destructive power contained within the sword might. It was as though Lin Haotian's sword had the will to destroy everything in its path. Lin Haotian is too ruthless. With such a powerful sword strike, would he kill Qin Wentian? If that's the case, Lin Haotian wouldn't be able to explain himself. However, this Lin Haotian must have seen through Qin Wentian's strength. Although he was able to injure Qin Wentian with a single strike, Lin Haotian knew that he wouldn't be able to take Qin Wentian's life. The crowd all had their own thoughts. Lin Haotian was indeed worthy of being a heaven's chosen of the Sword Extinction Sect. It was just that he was suppressed by Situ Pa. Lin Haotian's combat prowess was truly tyrannical. The moment he made his move, everyone could feel how terrifying he was. Qin Wentian sensed the power of the storm of swords. The yuan energy in his body surged as a terrifying demonic qi gushed forth from him. Lin Haotian's cultivation base was at the peak of the 7th level of Yuanfu. For Qin Wentian to fight against him, it was undoubtedly equivalent to facing off against an 8th level Yuanfu cultivator. Given Lin Haotian's strength, he would be able to suppress ordinary 8th level Yuanfu cultivators with ease. Although this person was arrogant, he was truly powerful. As Lin Haotian advanced step by step, Qin Wentian didn't budge an inch. Yet, the aura he exuded was so terrifying that it was as though he was the ruler of the entire heavens and earth. The demonic qi emanating from him was akin to a primordial beast that could erupt at any moment. Finally, when Lin Haotian's aura reached its peak, he completely erupted forth. His silhouette was like the wind, like a sword. His entire person was akin to a sharp sword. That towering sword might gushed forth, filling the entire heavens and earth with sword light. At the same instant, Qin Wentian also moved. He only took a single step forward, but this single step was akin to the roar of a primordial beast, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. It was as though he had transformed into the sovereign of this world. The destructive sword light was so blinding that it pierced the eyes of the spectators. It was as though the spectators could hear a towering roar as the destructive might of the heavens and earth ravaged the heavens and earth. Only a single strike, Lin Haotian's most terrifying strike, contained the pinnacle of his strength. He didn't want to give Qin Wentian any chance of survival. Yet at this moment, his sword shattered as fresh blood gushed forth. A terrifying palm print could be seen on his chest, and his throat was currently being grasped by a gigantic hand. How is this possible? Lin Haotian's body involuntarily trembled. His life extinction swordplay was actually broken apart by pure strength. Qin Wentian's mandate of strength had already reached the perfection boundary, but even so, Qin Wentian, with a cultivation base at the 6th level of Yuanfu, actually managed to break apart his swordplay. This was something he couldn't accept. Do I even need divine inscriptions to deal with you? The genius of the Sword Extinction Sect only amounts to this much. Qin Wentian abruptly flung his arms out. The terrifying force of his mandate of strength sent Lin Haotian flying through the air. With a thunderous boom, the spectators only saw Lin Haotian's body slamming into a distant mountain rampart, causing their hearts to involuntarily shudder. Qin Wentian, who had stepped into the 6th level of Yuanfu, was simply too terrifying. Lin Haotian of the Sword Extinction Sect was completely suppressed. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Yu Bingying, as a sharp glint of light flashed in his eyes. Didn't you say you wanted to spar with me? Now you should have the qualifications to do so, right? Yu Bingying stared at Qin Wentian, as a strange light flickered in her eyes. This Qin Wentian's strength was truly terrifying. His mandate should have already reached the perfection boundary, yet he was still able to defeat Lin Haotian. Although she was strong, when compared to Lin Haotian, she didn't have much of an advantage. It was impossible for her to suppress Lin Haotian the way Qin Wentian did. Hence, she knew that if she fought against Qin Wentian, the probability of her defeat would be extremely high. Being able to obtain the authority to cultivate all 36 halls, you're truly not bad. Yu Bingying laughed lightly. She had no intention to act. It was as though she wanted to let this matter go with a single sentence. And then, Qin Wentian stared at Yu Bingying as he asked. Yu Bingying furrowed her brows. Yu Bingying had already acknowledged Qin Wentian by saying this. Naturally, she wanted to let this matter go. I admit that your talent is very strong. Yu Bingying forced a smile as she continued. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. The moment you said that you wanted to see me, you immediately sent someone to bring me to your side, even interrupting my cultivation. Now that I'm here, do you think I'd care about you saying that your talent is not bad? Who do you think you are? Yu Bingying's countenance sank as the smile on her face disappeared. She had already given him face by acknowledging Qin Wentian. It could be considered a form of compromise, allowing this matter to end here. However, it seemed as though Qin Wentian didn't give her any face at all. What do you want then? Yu Bingying asked. Qin Wentian stared at her as he spoke. Now, get your ass over here, apologize, and this matter will end here. Yu Bingying's countenance turned extremely ugly. Asking her to apologize? What a joke. The spectators all had astonished expressions on their faces. Qin Wentian wanted Yu Bingying to apologize? Wasn't his guts a little too big? Leaving aside the fact that Yu Bingying was from the Azure Emperor Palace, she was also Situpo's lover. Situpo was still in the unmatched realm. Qin Wentian wanted Yu Bingying to apologize? In this unmatched realm, you're not the only one with high talent. I'm afraid you won't be able to accept my apology. Yu Bingying's countenance turned cold as she threatened. Vizi. A raging wind gusted by. Qin Wentian didn't waste any more words. He instantly stepped towards Yu Bingying, his actions extremely decisive. He had always been a man of few words. Yu Bingying's single sentence of wanting to see him had caused trouble for him. If he wasn't strong enough, he would have been humiliated by the Sword Extinction sect today. Asking the other party to apologize wasn't an exaggeration. However, the other party was still so domineering, threatening him with words. Since that's the case, there was no need to waste any more words. Yu Bingying's countenance drastically changed. Her astral souls flickered, but Qin Wentian's aura towered up the heavens, as though he had transformed into an ancient demonic beast. Rock slash, dragon roar, lion roar, Kirin arm, ape strike. He has comprehended the 81 demonic arts of the precipice cliff. The spectators saw Qin Wentian's incomparably tyrannical attacks. Yu Bingying was completely suppressed, and very swiftly a thunderous boom rang out. Yu Bingying coughed out a mouthful of blood as her long hair and robes were in a mess. She no longer had the slightest bit of elegance and arrogance. Qin Wentian floated in the air, staring down at her. Yu Bingying coldly stated, Situpo will never forgive you. I Qin will naturally consider the consequences of my actions. If Situpo wants revenge, he can just come and find me. However, you and Situpo are in a relationship, what's the point of using his name to strut around? For those who don't know, they would think that you, the eldest daughter of the Azure Emperor Palace, sold your body to seek glory. You've simply thrown away the face of the Azure Emperor Palace. Qin Wentian flicked his sleeves as he departed. His words caused Yu Bingying's countenance to fluctuate between shades of green and white, as she involuntarily coughed out another mouthful of blood. The hearts of the spectators were already silently praying for Qin Wentian. This fellow was still as arrogant as the rumors said. Situpo would surely come looking for him very soon. Qin Wentian would definitely be in dire straits. No matter how terrifying his combat prowess was, it was impossible for him to contend against Situpo. Regardless of cultivation base or the will of his mandate, Situpo would completely suppress Qin Wentian. Chapter 325. Ignoring the unsightly expression on Yu Bingying's face, Qin Wentian walked towards Fan Lu and Ouyang Guangxing. With the addition of Qin Wentian, their strength had undoubtedly increased by several folds. Based on the combat prowess Qin Wentian had displayed earlier, he should be able to fight evenly against Li Xiyu, who was at the 8th level of Yuanfu. Qin Wentian, Chu Meng, Ouyang Guangxing and Fan Lu. Against Li Xiyu and the others from the Mystic Maiden Palace, the four of them weren't at a disadvantage at all. Qin Wentian restrained Li Xiyu. With Ouyang Guangxing's tyrannical combat prowess, he would definitely be able to suppress the 7th level Yuanfu maidens from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Chu Meng was also at the 7th level, he could deal with one of them. The Mystic Maiden Palace had no chance of victory. The spectators all had expressions of interest on their faces. When Qin Wentian first entered the unmatched realm, his cultivation base was only at the 5th level of Yuanfu. Now that he was at the 6th level, his combat prowess had already skyrocketed to such an extent. In just a span of half a year, his improvement was simply too fast. Ouyingting's heart trembled when she personally witnessed Qin Wentian's strength. With her own strength, she would never be able to avenge her hatred. Unless she borrowed the strength of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, Ouyang Quangxing would definitely stop her. Li Xiu, do you see that? This is my brother Qin Wentian. The people standing before you, Qin Wentian, me, Ouyang Quangxing, Chu Meng and Fan Lu. Which one of us is inferior to the members of your Mystic Maiden Palace? Ouyang Quangxing smiled as he glanced at Li Xiu and the others. Xian Xian and Fan Lu being in love wouldn't bring shame to Xian Xian. Although Fatty Fan Lu isn't as handsome as me, his talent is still very good. If you wanted to choose someone from your Mystic Maiden Palace, Xian Xian might not be able to match up to him. Are you helping me or belittling me? Fan Li's lips twitched. This Ouyang Quangxing's mouth was too despicable. He, Fan Lu, was as handsome as the wind. What did he mean by he wasn't as handsome as him? Humph! Li Xiu coldly snorted. No matter how she looked at Fan Lu, she couldn't find him to be an eyesore. If Xian Xian had chosen Ouyang Quangxing or Qin Wentian, she might have been able to accept it. No one from the Sword Extinction Sect or the Azure Emperor Palace came. Li Xiu indifferently swept her gaze across the surroundings. Just now, Qin Wentian had forcefully suppressed Lin Haotian and the others from the Sword Extinction Sect, and had even beaten up Yu Bingying. She didn't believe that they would be able to swallow this anger. Evidently, Li Xiu herself didn't have the confidence to deal with Qin Wentian and the others. Hence, she wanted to seek help from the Sword Extinction Sect and the Azure Emperor Palace. No need. A cold voice drifted over from afar. The gazes of the crowd turned over as their expressions froze. An extraordinary silhouette was currently walking over. He was usually gentle and quiet, but right now, his face was filled with killing intent, causing the hearts of the crowd to involuntarily tremble. They came so fast. In this case, Qin Wentian was doomed. Situpo's silhouette instantly appeared beside Yu Bingying. Stretching out his hand, he gently wiped away the traces of blood on the corner of Yu Bingying's lips as he asked in a gentle voice, "Are your injuries serious?" "I'm fine, cough cough." Yu Bingying's countenance was still extremely pale. She turned to Situpo and asked, "Did he say that I sold my body for glory?" "No one would dare to say that." Situpo gently stroked Yu Bingying's black hair as a smile flickered in his eyes. Yu Bingying lightly nodded her head. After which, Situpo's silhouette flickered as he turned his gaze onto Lin Haotian and the others. The 3 experts from the Sword Extinction Sect all lowered their heads, not daring to look at Situpo. They had been defeated too miserably, throwing away the face of the Sword Extinction Sect. Be careful, Situpo is extremely terrifying. He has 2 mandates at the Perfection Boundary, and 1 at the Transformation Boundary. His combat prowess is definitely at the 9th level of Yuanfu. If his opponent didn't have a mandate at the Perfection Boundary, even a peak-level Yuanfu expert would be crushed. Ouyang Quangxing reminded in a low voice, his words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to turn extremely heavy. Although he was decisive in his actions, Lin Haotian and Yu Bingying had no one in their eyes. Naturally, he would have to do something to appease them. However, he wasn't someone who would consider everything beneath his notice. His mandate had already reached the Perfection Boundary when he was at the 6th level of Yuanfu. Even if he fought against someone at the 8th level of Yuanfu, as long as his opponent's mandate hadn't reached the Perfection Boundary, he would still be able to fight them head-on. But Situpo was a character on the same level as him. He had access to all 36 halls of cultivation, and 2 of his mandates had already reached the Perfection Boundary. The combat prowess of such a character would definitely be terrifying, and he couldn't be treated as an ordinary cultivator at the 8th level of Yuanfu. In fact, it wouldn't even be sufficient to treat him as an ordinary cultivator at the 9th level of Yuanfu. Situpo's silhouette soared through the air, his gaze sweeping over to Qin Wentian and the others as he calmly stated, "All of you can come at me together." The spectators froze. This Situpo was truly arrogant. But of course he had the qualifications to be arrogant. For someone as strong as Situpo, he would definitely be able to fight against the people in front of him. Or maybe he didn't want others to say that he, Situpa, was bullying the weak. After all, his cultivation base was much higher than Qin Wentian's. How arrogant! Fan Lu stared at the silhouette in the air. Naturally, he had heard of Situpa's name before. Situpa was a demon-level character who had caused huge waves of commotion in the unmatched realm before Qin Wentian. He would soon become a Heaven's Chosen of the Sword Extinction sect, and at the end of this year, he would challenge the heavenly fate rankings. Now he already had such strength. Let me test out his strength. Chu Meng spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, a resplendent arrow appeared in his hands. VZ. The resplendent arrow erupted forth. Its speed so fast that even the naked eye couldn't keep up with it. Pung! The arrow directly pierced into Situpa's chest. The explosive force of the arrow causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. However, to their astonishment, Situpa was still standing in the air. Not only that, he hadn't moved in the slightest. In front of his chest, a resplendent layer of light could be seen revolving around it, akin to a layer of stone armor. But in an instant it vanished from sight. That powerful insta-kill arrow had no way to break through his defense. This level of strength was akin to that of Qin Wentian's sword earlier. The mandate he comprehended is a little unique. It's the mandate of stone, which is extremely close to the mandate of great earth. The first level of the mandate of stone is hardening. His body is instantly enveloped by a layer of light, allowing him to disregard attacks from cultivators at the 8th level of Yuanfu, Onyang Guangxing explained. He had never seen Situpa in battle before. He had only heard rumors about him. Maybe Situpa was even stronger than what the rumors said. Qin Wentian's countenance turned heavy. He was at the 6th level of Yuanfu, and his mandate of strength had already reached the perfection boundary. Situpa was at the peak of the 8th level of Yuanfu, and had the mandate of stone armor. His defensive prowess was undoubtedly terrifying. No wonder he was so famous in the unmatched realm. Chu Meng brandished his battle axe, only to see Qin Wentian waving his hands to stop him. Those from the Mystic Maiden Palace were still eyeing Situpa like a tiger watching its prey. Situpa's combat prowess was obviously higher than theirs. Even if they wanted to fight, they shouldn't have dragged Chu Meng and the rest along. Let me. Qin Wentian's silhouette slowly rose up into the air as the blood in his body churned frenziedly. Rumbling sounds echoed unceasingly as a terrifying demonic qi gushed forth from Qin Wentian's body. His physique was also undergoing a transformation, causing the spectators to stare at him in awe. A layer of demonic armor appeared on Qin Wentian's body, causing his physique to grow taller and taller. That terrifying demonic qi engulfed the entire space as his aura soared madly, causing the spectators to be speechless. Even cultivators at the 7th level of Yuanfu wouldn't have such an overwhelming aura like Qin Wentian's. Boom! Situpa stepped out, directly moving towards Qin Wentian. His aura towered up into the heavens, incomparably tyrannical. Punching out, it was as though he wanted to shatter the void. The terrifying might of his fist blasted towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian waved his palms as the dragon imprint blasted out, causing a terrifying explosive sound to echo out in the air. Situpa soared through the air, ignoring the chaotic flow of qi as he pointed his finger forward. Streams of sword light tore through everything as a terrifying rain of swords appeared in the air. The divine energy in Qin Wentian's Yuanfu seethed as he blasted out with his palms. Countless shadows of great rocks appeared in the air, their shrill cries echoing throughout the heavens and earth. Situpa's palms appeared from within the shadows of the great rocks, causing Qin Wentian's body to freeze. His entire body was actually hardening, becoming incomparably rigid. Explode! Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. The divine energy in his body erupted forth with a frenzy as his demonic qi tore apart the protective barrier of light enveloping him. However, Situpa's silhouette had already descended. What sort of character was he? Why would he waste an instant? Although in his eyes, Qin Wentian wasn't even worthy to be called an opponent, since the battle had already begun, he would definitely suppress Qin Wentian. VZ. A hail of arrows exploded forth. Situpa waved his hands as sword qi gushed forth, shattering the arrows. At the same time, his left hand slashed out as a beam of sword light slashed downwards, aiming for Qin Wentian's body. Not good. Fan Lu and the rest exclaimed in shock. Qin Wentian's countenance turned extremely pale as his powerful divine energy frenziedly gushed forth. As the sword landed, a piercing sound rang out. Fresh blood splattered out from Qin Wentian's chest, dyeing his robes red as his flesh was lacerated. "He's trying to kill me." Ouyang Guangxing's countenance abruptly changed as he soared up into the skies. However, at this very moment the experts of the Mystic Maiden Palace all acted. Li Shiyu's palm energy enveloped Ouyang Guangxing, while the others attacked Fan Lu and Chu Meng. In the air, Qin Wentian's silhouette explosively retreated. His Garuda wings flapped madly as he stared fixedly at Situpa. "This is the unmatched realm." Qin Wentian's voice was as cold as ice. "I should have enough time to kill you." Situpo's voice was serene as he stepped out once more. In that instant, the killing intent emanating from him surged forth, enveloping Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian had tarnished the reputation of the Sword Extinction sect and humiliated Yu Binging. Although Qin Wentian's talent was unparalleled, in Situpo's eyes, he was nothing more than an ant. He had never cared about Qin Wentian. But today, Qin Wentian had offended his dignity. In that case, Qin Wentian should die. The will of the mandate of swords at the perfection boundary erupted forth. Situpa grabbed out in the air, causing Qin Wentian's body to stiffen once more. Situpa seemed to be protecting him, but at the same time he was also restricting his movements. At the same time, Lin Haoyan and the others from the Peerless Sword sect soared into the skies, blocking Qin Wentian's path of retreat. They would definitely follow Situpa. If Situpa wanted to kill Qin Wentian, he would have to kill him before anyone else arrived. After that, they would leave the unmatched realm. The unmatched realm was the unmatched realm of the Azure continent. Unparalleled in the Azure continent, they didn't care about the mortal world. The hearts of the spectators trembled violently. Situpa was going for the kill. As expected of a heaven's chosen, Situpa wanted to kill a genius. Chapter 326. How powerful was Situpo's killing intent? Qin Wentian, who was at the 6th level of Yuanfu, was completely suppressed by him, who was at the 8th level of Yuanfu. Similarly, as a genius from the Sword Extinction sect, how could the innate techniques and cultivation arts he cultivated be weak? His astral souls were also extremely powerful as well. His third astral soul was an astral soul from the 5th heavenly layer, causing the astral energy in his body to be terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian's mandate of Stone Source was at the perfection boundary. Qin Wentian's advantage was the fact that he had 3 Yuamphis in his body, and the Fiend transformation art allowed him to possess the physique of a demonic beast, allowing him to transform into a demonic beast. Not only that, what made Qin Wentian extremely depressed was the fact that ever since he met with danger in the refinement grounds of divine inscriptions, his second bloodline had grown even stronger than his first bloodline. However, he still hadn't fully awakened his bloodline yet. That mysterious bloodline was akin to an ancient treasure chest. He could only slowly excavate the energy within. As for divine inscriptions, that was also his greatest advantage. However, the divine inscriptions he could instantaneously unleash weren't enough to threaten his opponent. Vizi. A resplendent astral soul erupted forth. Qin Wentian didn't conceal his third astral soul, an astral soul originating from the 5th heavenly layer. That resplendent golden light, that incomparably tyrannical ancient demon astral soul, exuded a tyrannical aura. The demonic qi exuding from Qin Wentian grew even stronger under the augmentation of his astral soul. An astral soul from the 5th heavenly layer? That's right, Qin Wentian never released his astral soul before. This is the first time an astral soul originated from the 5th heavenly layer. Not only is that an astral soul from the 5th heavenly layer, it's also a demon sovereign astral soul, ranked number 1 in the War Beast Index. Those below felt their hearts trembling. Situpa and Qin Wentian, these 2 demon-level geniuses who had obtained the authority of the 36 cultivators, were both in a frenzy. Situpa wanted to kill Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian could no longer conceal his strength. He erupted forth with all his might, revealing his demon sovereign astral soul. His third astral soul was already able to condense the demon sovereign astral soul, which was ranked number 1 in the War Beast Index. In that case, there was no doubt that his fourth astral soul would originate from the 6th heavenly layer. At that time, the strength of his astral energy would be extremely terrifying. His body. At this moment, the crowd seemed to have seen an unbelievable scene. They saw Qin Wentian's demonic aura billowing into the sky. That demonic aura enveloped Qin Wentian's body at an extremely fast speed. In an extremely short instant, Qin Wentian's body transformed into a terrifying demonic body. The hearts of the crowd pounded. Was Qin Wentian really a demonic human? At this moment, that demonic body had the wings of a Garuda, the scales of a Xuanwu, the arms of a Kirin, and the claws of a golden dragon. Only his body was still in human form, and his head was still the same as before. The current Qin Wentian was extremely terrifying, giving off an intense visual impact to the eyes of the crowd. The second level of the Fiend transformation art, the Fiend Advent art. Using the powerful Yuan energy of demonic beasts to support one's body, one could condense the body of a demonic sovereign. That's definitely not a demonic human's body. How could there be such a terrifying combination? The wings of a Garuda for speed, the scales of a Xuanwu for defense, and the arms of a Kirin and the claws of a golden dragon for offense. What a freakish combination. No wonder Qin Wentian's demonic aura is so monstrous. He must have cultivated a demonic art that allowed him to condense the energy of ancient demonic beasts into a human body. Someone exclaimed in shock. If they could cultivate such a cultivation art, their strength would undoubtedly rise to a whole new level. This could be seen from the fact that Qin Wentian was able to completely ignore the attacks from the Sword Extinction sect. The eyes of the spectators gleamed with sharpness. Even Situpa and the rest froze for a moment as they stared at the transformations occurring to Qin Wentian. A terrifying bloodline surged within Qin Wentian's body, as a blood-colored light flowed around his body, adding to his terrifying demonic aura. Qin Wentian was akin to a true demon king from the primordial times, looking down on the heavens and earth, the lord of demons. Even if you are a true demon king, you still have to die. As the sound of Situpo's voice faded, he clenched his fists, attempting to harden Qin Wentian's body. However, Qin Wentian simply stood there, his countenance as cold as ice. The will of the mandate of demons erupted forth, and with a clench of his golden dragon claw, an incomparably fearsome might surged forth. Situpa remained unfazed, continuing to walk forward. Stretching out his palm, a small resplendent sword appeared on his fingertips. Boundless sword chi swirled around the small sword, and that unassuming little sword seemed to have transformed into a black hole, devouring the cyclic sword might. The humming sound it emitted caused those who heard it to feel as though they were about to be torn apart by the cyclic sword might. No matter how strong Qin Wentian's physique was, he would break through it. Since Qin Wentian wanted to clash head-on with him, how could he have the slightest bit of fear? No matter how Qin Wentian fought, he would die without a doubt. As the two of them clashed, Situpa stabbed out with his finger, aiming for Qin Wentian's head. However, Qin Wentian merely grabbed out with his left hand, as a massive amount of divine energy erupted forth. At the same time, Situpa shifted his body to the side, but what sort of character was Situpa? His finger slashed out, and instantly, a blood-colored light flashed. His finger continued forward, piercing towards Qin Wentian's heart. At the same time, a resplendent armor appeared on Situpo's body. This was the astral protection armor, formed from the mandate of stonework at the perfection boundary. Qin Wentian stabbed out with his golden dragon claw, as a terrifying finger strike landed on the astral protection armor. Boundless sword-type divine energy erupted forth, transforming into a terrifying vortex that pierced through the armor. Pung! The moment the two of them collided, they separated again. Qin Wentian's demonic body felt as though it was being torn apart. His internal organs felt as though they were about to be torn apart. Fresh blood flowed out of his mouth, as well as from the corners of his lips. The explosive power contained within that finger strike of Situpa was simply too terrifying, as though it wanted to destroy Qin Wentian's body. Cough cough. Fresh blood seeped out from the corners of his mouth. Just a single strike had already heavily injured Qin Wentian. However, what was even more shocking was that Situpa was also injured. He lowered his head and stared at his chest, only to see that the astral protection armor had been shattered. Fresh blood flowed out from the wound, and his body was similarly filled with a destructive might, causing his countenance to turn pale white. Fresh blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. How similar, how intense was that collision? Qin Wentian actually didn't die. Not only that, he even injured Situpa. Situpo's astral protection armor was condensed from the will of a mandate at the perfection boundary. It was equivalent to an attack from a cultivator at the 9th level of Yuanfu. Yet it was broken by Qin Wentian. This meant that Qin Wentian's attack power had already reached the 9th level of Yuanfu. Boom! Situpa stepped out once more, as though he couldn't care less about his injuries. To him, he was actually injured. To him, this was a humiliation. Only by using Qin Wentian's life could he wash away this humiliation. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered. The Garuda feather was as quick as lightning as he retreated. Lin Haoyan and the others rushed over to intercept him, yet they didn't dare to get too close. Qin Wentian glanced at them, as though a third eye had appeared in his eyes. Instantly, the three of them trembled in fear. Qin Wentian continuously waved his palms, killing 2 cultivators at the 6th level of Yuanfu. At the same time, he dashed towards Lin Haoyan. Lin Haoyan explosively retreated, yet Qin Wentian's speed was incomparably fast. The Mandate of Demons in the Mandate of Demons not only boosted his strength, it also boosted his speed and explosive power. In addition to the Garuda feather, Qin Wentian instantly appeared in front of Lin Haoyan. His palms grabbed out, directly blocking the descending sword of Lin Haoyan. The sharp claws of a golden dragon slashed out, and as the sound of bones cracking rang out, Lin Haoyan's head was smashed into smithereens. Qin Wentian flung his body through the air. Lin Haoyan was also a genius of the sword extinction sect, yet he was insta-killed by Qin Wentian with a single strike. Such a scene was sufficient to cause the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Even Yu Binging was trembling involuntarily. How could Qin Wentian be so terrifying? Not only that, he was so decisive and ruthless. Boom! Situpo's killing intent towered up to the heavens as his sword might soared upwards, wanting to tear apart the heavens. He wanted to kill Qin Wentian. Yet 3 of his fellow disciples actually died in Qin Wentian's hands. Situpo's silhouette was akin to a sword, moving like a beam of light, chasing after Qin Wentian. A cold light flashed as a sword slashed apart the heavens. Qin Wentian abruptly turned and blasted out with a dragon imprint, causing the heavens and earth to rumble. It was as though a demonic dragon was roaring, transforming into an ancient imprint. Die! Situpo's silhouette descended, slamming down with his palm. His strength was akin to a mountain descending from the heavens, exploding towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's countenance flickered with a terrifying coldness. Both his palms blasted outwards as the divine energy in his body frenziedly erupted, breaking apart the mountain as he rushed towards Situpa. That mountain-like boulder was like a sword, unceasingly slamming towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's body was on the verge of breaking apart. Situpa saw Qin Wentian rushing towards him. His killing intent was so strong that it could kill. His 9 heaven sword slashed apart the heavens and earth. The divine energy in Qin Wentian's body frenziedly erupted forth as numerous third-rank divine inscriptions manifested in front of him, transforming into a fearsome ancient shield. At the same time, Qin Wentian slammed out with his palms. The divine energy in his Yuanfu seemed to be on the verge of being sucked dry. The armor on Situpo's body was still the same as before, but he similarly pushed out with his palms, crushing the space apart. Rumbling sounds echoed out as Qin Wentian's body was once again flung through the air, coughing out fresh blood. His demonic body unceasingly broke apart, yet his eyes were still as cold as ever. If I want you to die, how can you live? Situpo's killing intent soared to the heavens as Qin Wentian unleashed it. His body was also covered in bloodstains. Nobody had imagined that this battle would be so intense. They all thought that Situpo would be able to insta-kill Qin Wentian. Evidently, they had underestimated this crazy fellow. Enough! A voice filled with rage rang out, yet Situpo continued advancing, not willing to let Qin Wentian go. A terrifying gust of cold wind gusted up, and with a thunderous boom, Situpo's body was flung through the air, unable to advance any further. He knew that although the duration of his battle with Qin Wentian was short, it was more than enough for the experts from the unmatched realm to arrive. You want to battle so badly? A cold voice drifted out, echoing in the minds of Situpo and Qin Wentian, as though it had appeared out of thin air. I will definitely kill him, even if we are outside of the unmatched realm, Situpa coldly stated. Qin Wentian didn't reply, yet the look in his eyes had already given him the answer. From today onwards, Situpa would be his mortal enemy, either you die or I live. Fine, since you guys want to battle, this old man shall give you a chance. That cold voice drifted over once more. 3 days later, at the Heavenly Steel platform, I shall borrow the Heavenly Steel for a while. The two of you shall attempt the Heavenly Steel steps, and the loser shall be banished from the unmatched realm, never to enter again for the rest of his life. Also, the disciples of the unmatched realm may attempt the Heavenly Steel steps on that day. I will pave the way for you all to enter the ancient capital of Grand Xia. That voice shook the heavens and earth, causing the hearts of the crowd to tremble. The unmatched realm old man actually wanted to borrow the Heavenly Steel steps? What kind of face did he have? Not only that, he wanted to pave the way for them. However, they also knew that the Heavenly Steel steps were extremely dangerous. If they were not careful, their lives would be in danger. This matter would definitely shake the entire Azure continent. Chapter 327. The Heavenly Steel platform was located in the central region of the Azure continent. But even so, there was no one there at all. There was only an old man sweeping the steps of the Heavenly Steel steps. Such a wondrous place had never been occupied by anyone, and no one had ever dared to wipe it off the face of the Azure continent. This was because it was rumored that the owner of the Heavenly Steel platform was an extremely powerful individual. Not only that, the Heavenly Steel in the Heavenly Steel viewing hall was a supreme treasure. It was able to peer into the innate talent and destiny of those who cultivated the Heavenly Steel viewing hall. It was extremely beneficial to those who cultivated the Heavenly Steel viewing hall. Every time the Heavenly Steel viewing hall descended, countless people would head there to challenge the Heavenly Steel steps. Not only that, there were no rules to the descent of the Heavenly Steel platform. It was rumored that it depended on the mood of the owner. But now, an elder from the unmatched realm said that 3 days later, he would borrow the Heavenly Steel for them to challenge, to pave the way for them. The old man naturally knew that among the many geniuses of the unmatched realm, there would be many who would head to the Ginkgo continent at the end of the year. The mysterious old man actually had a friendly relationship with the mysterious and powerful Heavenly Steel platform's owner, allowing him to borrow the Heavenly Steel steps for the sake of the cultivators of the unmatched realm. At the same time, it was also for the sake of the battle between Qin Wentian and Situpa. The loser would be expelled from the unmatched realm. This was a battle that neither of them could afford to lose. If Situpa were to lose, where would his face go? He was 2 levels higher than Qin Wentian, yet he failed to kill Qin Wentian today. On the contrary, Lin Haoyin and the rest who participated in the hunt for Qin Wentian had all died. This was already a huge loss of face for him. If Qin Wentian was defeated, he would die. Situpa would never spare him. Senior, he killed someone in the unmatched realm. Yu Bingying spoke, wanting to pursue the matter of Qin Wentian. Do you think I'm blind? That ethereal voice drifted over once more, containing a hint of coldness within. Yu Bingying's countenance stiffened. So what if she was a princess of the Azure Emperor Palace? In the unmatched realm, the old man didn't need to give her any face. Among the cultivators in the unmatched realm, how many of them were from prestigious sects? All of them had something to ask of the unmatched old man. The peerless old man was clearly aware of their struggle. Situpa wanted to kill Qin Wentian, and Lin Haoyin and the others had helped to stop him, only to die at the hands of Qin Wentian. Who was in the right and who was in the wrong? If they were to be convicted, they were all guilty. The matters of today shall end here. If you all want to fight, go to the Heavenly Steel platform and let the people of the Azure continent witness it. Let's see if you all have the face to lose. As the sound of his voice faded, old man Wu Shuang's aura vanished into nothingness. Situpo's expression was ice cold, his gaze sweeping over Qin Wentian. The killing intent in his eyes intensified. 3 days later, I'll be waiting for you at the Heavenly Steel platform, Situpa coldly stated, after which, his silhouette flickered as he appeared in front of Yu Bingying. The two of them held hands as they left the unmatched realm. 3 days later they would kill Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian retracted his demonic qi, as well as his astral souls. The tyrannical aura he was exuding gradually dissipated into nothingness. Evidently, he was heavily injured. In terms of talent, he was stronger than Situpa. But in terms of combat prowess, he was weaker than Situpa. After all, there was a disparity between the two of them in terms of cultivation level and mandates. For cultivators, even the slightest disparity was akin to a chasm. If it weren't for the fact that he had many trump cards up his sleeves, as well as his talent, he would have long since died in Situpo's hands. Landing on the ground, Qin Wentian once again turned his gaze onto Li Shiyu and the others from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Li Shiyu coldly snorted as she glanced at Fan Lu. After which, she turned to Xian Xian and stated, Xian Xian, Situpo will definitely win 3 days from now. At that time, Qin Wentian will die for sure. Fan Lu is a friend of Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian killed Lin Haoyan and the rest. Although Situpa didn't say anything today, he will definitely not spare Qin Wentian. Sister Shiyu, Qin Wentian is only at the 6th level of Yuanfu, while Situpa is at the 8th level. Being able to fight to such an extent, the difference in talent between the two of them can be seen with a single glance. The heavenly steel steps doesn't depend on one's combat prowess, but rather one's talent, one's will, and one's conviction. Who said that he would lose to Situpa? Li Shiyu coldly snorted. Situpa was too careless today, and he didn't manage to kill Qin Wentian. If not, do you think he would still be alive? Xian Xian, don't be so optimistic. Even if his talent is high, Fan Lu is not him. How can Fan Lu be worthy of you? Fan Lu was incomparably depressed when he heard this. He then spoke, beautiful maiden, do you want to spar with me? Senior said that the heavenly steel platform is open to all of us from the unmatched realm. How about we go there and give it a try? You. Li Shiyu disdainfully replied, if you lose, will you voluntarily leave Xian Xian? She also wanted to go to the heavenly steel platform. How could she miss out on such a good opportunity? Isn't this unfair to me? Even if I win, you won't be able to make decisions for Xian Xian. Fan Li's eyes flickered as he meekly stated, how about this, if I win you can be my concubine? Xian Xian's eyes widened as she stared at Fan Lu, resembling a beautiful tigress. I'm just joking. Fan Li's smile trembled. How can such a woman be worthy of a handsome genius like me? Just you wait. Li Shiyu coldly glanced at Fan Lu. With a wave of her sleeves, she led the people from the Mystic Maiden Palace away. The matter regarding the heavenly steel platform naturally had to be reported to the Mystic Maiden Palace, as well as the matter regarding Xian Xian. Seeing Li Shiyu and the others leaving, Xian Xian's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of worry. However, she only saw Fan Lu holding onto her dainty hands as he spoke. Don't worry, this genius will definitely shock the people from the Mystic Maiden Palace 3 days later. And after that, they will acknowledge me as their son-in-law. Seeing that Fan Lu didn't forget to boast, Xian Xian couldn't help but laugh. Although this damnable fatty was a little shameless, being together with him truly made her happy. She was even happier than when she was with the Mystic Maiden Palace. He would always think of all sorts of ways to make her happy. This kind of feeling was very beautiful, very sweet. Boss, are you alright? Fan Lu and the rest turned their gazes onto Qin Wentian. I'm fine, my body can take it. Qin Wentian laughed. The blood in his body was still churning, recovering from his injuries. A smile could be seen on his face, and no one would be able to tell that he was the one who had fought earlier. Indeed, I can take it. You are too monstrous. If I fought against Situpa, I'm afraid I would be insta-killed. Ouyang Guangxing couldn't help but to admire Qin Wentian. Despite being at the 6th level of Yuanfu, he was able to fight against Situpa to such an extent. The number 1 astral soul in the War Beast Index, as well as the demonic transformation art. This fellow was simply too powerful. However, you have to be careful. With just that cultivation technique of yours, I'm afraid it's even stronger than some of the overlord powers in the demon continent. It's very difficult for others to not covet it. You have to understand that the cultivation technique you're cultivating in is very likely something that they've bitterly searched for but could not obtain. Ouyang Guangxing reminded. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. Back then when he was cultivating the fiend transformation art, the Azure Emperor had left a message for him. But today, when facing against the tyrannical Situpa, he had no choice but to unleash his full strength. As for the future, he could only be more cautious and try to raise his strength as fast as possible. After the ranking battle, if he stepped into the peak of Yuanfu, it would be best if he could enter closed-door seclusion to break through to Heavenly Dipper. Although the competition between the geniuses of Yuanfu seemed impressive, in reality, they had yet to come into contact with the truly powerful characters. They were only Yuanfu cultivators, and many Heavenly Dipper sovereigns didn't even bother to look at Yuanfu. Only by stepping into Heavenly Dipper would they be able to truly step onto the ladder of power. What's going on with the Heavenly Steel platform? Qin Wentian inquired. The Heavenly Steel is an ancient will that manifests illusions, allowing one's talent to undergo a transformation. In any case, the Heavenly Steel can reap the lives of others, but it can also allow one's strength to rise to a higher level. It's an extremely rare treasure that is rarely open to the public. Now that old man Qin Wentian is able to borrow the Heavenly Steel, it's undoubtedly a great opportunity for us. Ouyang Guangxing's voice was filled with anticipation. This time around, the battle between Sitipe and Qin Wentian wasn't a bad thing. It gave everyone a chance. For the next 3 days, the geniuses of the Unmatched Realm all left the Unmatched Realm, informing their respective clans or sects as they headed towards the Heavenly Steel platform. This piece of news also spread out at a terrifying speed towards the Azure continent. Only now did the major powers of the Azure continent hear of a new name, Qin Wentian. In the Unmatched Realm, there was actually a young man at the 6th level of Yuanfu who wasn't even 20 years of age who fought against Sitipe from the Sword Extinction sect, killing Lin Haoyan and the rest. This news caused many of the juniors of the Sword Extinction sect to feel a sense of loss of face. As for the elders of the sect, they didn't pay much attention to it. Every demon-level genius had to go through many rounds of selection, and since Lin Haoyan died in the hands of someone with a lower cultivation base than him, it was impossible for the elders of the sect to seek revenge. Killing Qin Wentian would be left to Sitipe, and the Heavenly Steel platform attracted the attention of countless people in the Azure continent. For the sake of safety, Ouyang Guangxing first mobilized some experts from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, in case there were any hidden dangers. Who knew if someone would ambush and kill Qin Wentian before the battle started? Hence he had to be more cautious. Today, the number of experts in the Heavenly Steel platform was as many as the clouds. Many of the major powers of the Azure continent had sent their disciples to cultivate in the Unmatched Realm. Today they all had a chance to ascend the Heavenly Steel steps. In the vast area, experts from all over the Azure continent gathered. Their gazes stared ahead as they inclined their heads. At the end of the flight of stairs, there were 3 gigantic stone monuments, simple and unadorned, exuding an ancient aura, yet extremely clean. Below the stone monuments, an old man clad in tattered robes was quietly sweeping the dust off the steps. It was as though he had been repeating this action for an eternity, as though he didn't know fatigue. Boom! From afar, at the top of the Heavenly Steel platform, the sound of a bell reverberated through the air, after which streams of astral light cascaded onto the Heavenly Steel. Instantly, the color of the sky changed as resplendent astral light descended, landing on the ancient stone monuments. In an instant, a mysterious intent enveloped the entire space. The astral light descended, the ancient will of the Heavenly Steel. The 3 Heavenly Steel steps shone with resplendent resplendence. Vizi! A raging wind gusted by as a silhouette appeared at the bottom of the Heavenly Steel steps, staring up at the skies. The wind howled unceasingly as numerous silhouettes descended, causing the eyes of many to gleam with sharpness. The geniuses of the Unmatched Realm were all gathered here. At this moment, a silhouette soared through the air. This was none other than Sitipe. His gaze swept through the surroundings before landing on a certain location. Over there, Ouyang Guangxing, Qin Wentian, Fan Lu and the rest were all gathered together. In the past 10 years, the 27 steps of the Heavenly Steel steps have been opened 3 times. The highest number of people who managed to reach the 18th step was the 18th. Today I shall break through this record. Sitipe slowly spoke, his sharp gaze riveted onto Qin Wentian. Chapter 328. Qin Wentian glanced at Sitipe before shifting his gaze away, staring at the Heavenly Steel steps in front of him. A mysterious and majestic energy enveloped the entire Heavenly Steel steps, and the light circulating around the Heavenly Steel steps seemed to contain a mysterious intent. This time around, it wasn't only those he met in the Unmatched Realm who were here. In the air ahead, There were also several silhouettes with extraordinary auras, exuding an aura that wasn't any weaker than Situpo's. Situpo would definitely become a heaven's chosen of the sword extinction sect. However, he was still a step away from challenging the heavenly fate rankings. In the Azure continent, those rankers on the heavenly fate rankings had all gone to the unmatched realm to cultivate. Recently, they were either in closed-door seclusion, or preparing to break through to Heavenly Dipper, in preparation for the ancient kingdom of Granxia. But today, how could they miss out on such an opportunity? In the Ouyang aristocrat clan, other than Ouyang Quangxing's side, there were still two other camps. One of them was the first camp. A young man clad in violet robes stood in the air. Not far away from him, Duan Qingshan and Ouyang Ting stood there. That young man was a heavens chosen from the Ouyang aristocrat clan, Ouyang Zheng. He was ranked number 10 on the latest heavenly fate rankings. However, it was rumored that Hua Taishu and a few others had already stepped into Heavenly Dipper. At the end of this year, after the trip to the ancient kingdom of Granxia, the heavenly fate rankings would undergo a huge change. This was the usual practice of Granxia. Usually, there would only be minor changes, but once every 3 years, the Venerate Heavens sect would remove those who had already stepped into Heavenly Dipper before rearranging the remaining rankers according to their battle records. Hence, many people would only look at the heavenly fate rankings once every 3 years. If this was the case, and if there were no more powerful characters appearing later on, Ouyang Zheng might have a chance to enter the top 8. The Ouyang aristocrat clan had 2 heavens chosen in the Yuanfu realm, Ouyang Zheng and Duan Qingshan. Not only that, Ouyang Quangxing had also reserved a spot for himself. Over there, Zhang Lengfeng from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect has also arrived. The gazes of the crowd shifted onto a young man with a cold expression. This was a heavens chosen from the multidirectional Thunder Wind sect, ranked number 12 on the heavenly fate rankings. Other than this, on the side of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Li Xiu stood beside a beautiful young lady. That young lady glanced in the direction of Qin Wentian, glanced at Qin Wentian, Fan Lu and the rest before shifting her gaze onto Xian Xian. Xian Xian, come here. Xian Yan, ranked number 17 on the heavenly fate rankings. A heavens chosen from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Oh! Xian Xian glanced at Fan Lu, before moving towards Xian Yan. You, Xiyu and the rest, follow me to challenge the heavenly steel steps. Xian Yan spoke, yet she didn't mention anything about Fan Lu. Ice Shadow, is that him? In the direction of the Azure Emperor Palace, a figure beside Yu Bingying pointed his finger in the direction of Qin Wentian as he asked. Yu Bingying nodded, her eyes flickering with coldness. If Situpa wins, he will definitely kill this brat. But if Situpa fails, there's still me. That person spoke. He was none other than a heavens chosen from the Azure Emperor Palace, Yu Bufan. Yu Bufan didn't conceal his voice at all. In the surroundings, the gazes of the crowd all landed on Qin Wentian. This brat, is he the rumored young man Qin Wentian who turned the entire unmatched realm upside down? It's rumored that he obtained the privilege to cultivate in the 36 mountains, the same as Situpua. Not only that, he even killed Lin Haotian and the other experts from the Sword Extinction sect. Situpo's Sword of Extinction actually failed to take his life. His third astral soul is said to be the Demon Sovereign Astral Soul, ranked number 1 in the War Beast Index. Such an astral soul is even more superior compared to the heavens chosen in the Azure continent. As for the fatty beside him, his name is Fan Lu. He's proficient in archery and was accepted as a disciple by the unmatched realm's Arrow Emperor. The Arrow Emperor is one of the top experts in archery in the entire Granxia Empire, killing enemies from 1,000 miles away. This fatty's looks are truly unremarkable. Yet the little princess of the Mystic Maiden Palace actually fell in love with him. How interesting. Xian Xian is still young. In a few more years, there would surely be many heavens chosen pursuing her. I wonder why she fell in love with that fatty. Beneath the heavenly steel, the sunlight cascaded downwards, and experts were as common as the clouds. However, the focus of the crowd was actually a group of young men whom they were initially unfamiliar with in the Azure continent. The reason why the old man from the unmatched realm wanted to borrow the heavenly steel was because of the conflict between Qin Wentian and Situpa, and also because Qin Wentian's friend, Fan Lu, was in love with the little princess of the Mystic Maiden Palace. Not only that, Ouyang Quangsheng, who had always had his eyes on the top of his head, was walking together with them. The crowd wanted to see how this group of people would perform on the heavenly steel steps. On top of the heavenly steel steps, the old man with the broom slowly walked to the side as he calmly stated, "Those who wish to ascend the heavenly steel steps, be prepared to bear the consequences." The hearts of many trembled, as many rumors regarding the heavenly steel steps flashed through their minds. The 27 steps could prove one's talent, but it was also a path of no return. In the ancient times there were many geniuses who failed to climb the heavenly steel steps, never to rise again. Hence, there was a saying in the Azure continent, unless one's talent was demon level, they wouldn't be able to ascend the heavenly steel steps. Not entering was better than entering. However, at this moment, the people who had just arrived were all cultivators of the unmatched realm. Even if they didn't care about the attention of the crowd, they still wanted to test their own talent. All of them were extremely excited as they stepped out, moving towards the bottom of the heavenly steel steps. Situpa, Qin Wentian, Ouyang Zheng, Zong Langfeng, Xian Yan, Yu Bufan, Duan Qingshan, Ouyang Quangsheng, Fan Lu, Xian Xian, and the others were naturally the most eye-catching. Other than them, there were also some other rankers on the heavenly fate rankings who had arrived. In the past 10 years, the heavenly steel steps had opened a total of 3 times, but the highest one had reached was only the 18th step. Today, would there be anyone who would be able to break through? Situpa didn't even spare a glance at Qin Wentian. He stepped forth and was the first to ascend the heavenly steel steps. At the first step, he halted as he carefully sensed the ancient will of the heavenly steel steps. If one didn't ascend the heavenly steel steps, no one would know what Situpa had encountered. Fanlu. At this moment, a voice drifted over. Fanlu turned his gaze over, only to see Xian Yan. Beside her were Lu Shi, who had once been tortured by Qin Wentian, Wang Zhao's girlfriend, Xiao Xian, Li Xiyu and Xian Xan. These people were all geniuses that were qualified to enter the unmatched realm. The maidens of the Mystic Maiden Palace stood together, a sight that was extremely pleasing to the eye. "If you can't ascend as high as me today, you better leave Xian Xian alone," Xian Yan coldly spoke as she stepped forth, similarly ascending the heavenly steel steps. Ouyang Zheng and Zong Lingfeng glanced at each other, their gazes filled with hostility as they stepped forth together. Yu Bufan and Yu Bingying stood together. They coldly glanced at Qin Wentian before stepping forth as well. Duan Qingshan and Ouyang Ting stood together. Duan Qingshan encouraged Ouyang Ting, "Ting since you can enter the unmatched realm, you can also ascend the heavenly steel steps." Ouyang Ting heavily nodded her head. She, the unruly young miss of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, could feel a sense of immense pressure when she ascended the heavenly steel steps together with the other geniuses of the Yuanfu realm in the Azure continent. Most probably, the powers behind them were all secretly observing their performance. "Ouyang Ting, with your temperament, I advise you not to go up. I'm afraid you won't be able to take the blow." Ouyang Quangsheng stared at Ouyang Ting as he spoke, his words causing the expression in Ouyang Ting's eyes to change. "I'm saying this for your own good. But since you don't want to listen, just pretend I didn't say anything." Ouyang Quangsheng didn't mind. After which, he turned to Qin Wentian and the rest and whispered in a low voice, "Be careful." Qin Wentian and the rest nodded their heads as their auras gushed forth. Inclining their heads, they saw that Situpa had already ascended the 3rd step of the heavenly steel steps. After widening the distance between them, Qin Wentian and the rest finally stepped out, landing heavily on the 1st step, officially stepping onto the heavenly steel steps. Vizi. A wondrous glow enveloped them, as though they were the only ones left in this world. This feeling was akin to facing the heavenly steel steps alone. In the air, the 3 heavenly steels enveloped Qin Wentian, as though there was a pair of eyes staring at him. "Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the power you're exerting?" A voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, reverberating unceasingly. Instantly, a terrifying pressure enveloped him, causing him to feel his entire body tightening. If he relaxed even a little, he would be blasted off the heavenly steel steps. "Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the power you're exerting?" Naturally. Qin Wentian opened his eyes, as a demonic light flickered in them. Demonic chi gushed forth from him as his blood surged. Taking a step forward, he ascended the 2nd step. Rumble. A terrifying force abruptly blasted into Qin Wentian's body, akin to a formless lightning bolt. This strike caused the blood in his body to churn violently as he involuntarily let out a groan of agony. Qin Wentian's steps grew even more resolute, as he firmly nailed himself to the first step. His gaze was incomparably resolute as the energy in his body seethed. This was only the second step. How could it waver his determination? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with incomparable sharpness as he stared at the resplendent heavenly steel. Stepping forth, Qin Wentian's feet landed on the third step, causing a thunderous boom to echo out as a raging wind kicked up. Boom! An even more terrifying force blasted into his body, causing him to bend his waist as he involuntarily staggered backwards. His countenance paled. No wonder Ouyang Guangxing was so cautious. What a terrifying flight of stairs! Not far away from him, a scream of agony rang out. Ting! Duan Qingshan exclaimed in shock. Turning his head, he saw Ouyang Ting being blasted down the heavenly steel steps. Ouyang Ting was sprawled on the ground. Her beautiful countenance was extremely pale as she coughed out fresh blood. The second step, she had only taken the second step and she was blasted down. How could this be? Was this her talent? Her pale eyes stared at the crowd in the surroundings. Numerous pairs of eyes were staring at her. Ouyang Ting only felt ridicule in their gazes. She, the chosen of the Ouyang aristocrat clan, was actually so lowly at this moment. No! Ouyang Ting let out a scream of agony. Many in the crowd sighed in their hearts as they stared at her. This was the cruelty of the heavenly steel steps. She had only taken the second step, but from now on, a heart demon would be born in Ouyang Ting's heart. How could she continue to advance? Her conviction had been crushed. If one wasn't a monster, one wouldn't be able to look at the heaven monument. Chapter 329. Ouyang Ting was blasted down, but other than Duan Qingshan, the others didn't mind Ouyang Ting's failure at all. Today they stepped on the heavenly steel path, contending against Gunyan. If they lost too miserably, how would their sects and clans feel? This was an opportunity but also a path of destruction. They couldn't afford to lose. Everyone was incomparably cautious with every step they took. After every step they took, they would pause for a moment, stabilizing their state of mind. Qin Wentian had already stepped onto the fourth step. That earlier attack directly caused his internal organs to churn. Terror filled his heart. How difficult was this heavenly steel path? Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the force of your attacks? That voice reverberated in his mind, wanting to shake his heart. Qin Wentian stared at the resplendent astral light shining from the heavenly steel, his eyes gleaming with an unwavering light. This force seems to be my own strength. The stronger my strength is, the more terrifying the attacks against me would be. If I increase my own strength, the more powerful my attacks would be. Qin Wentian silently mused. On the heavenly steel path, nobody could conceal their strength. They would be suppressed to the limit by the heavenly steel path, and this limit would be used to attack themselves. His body transforming into a demonic beast. Qin Wentian's bloodline surged as he closed his eyes, ignoring the path ahead. In his heart, a candle flame lit up, revealing his true nature. His will wouldn't waver. Within his body, boundless strength could be felt. This was the explosive strength of his flesh and blood, and also the strength of his conviction. Boom! Qin Wentian's steps were resolute as he stepped onto the fifth step. A thunderous rumbling sound echoed out as the blood in his body churned frenziedly. However, his heart remained unwavering. Such an injury wouldn't obstruct his path of advancement. Taking another step, Qin Wentian stepped onto the sixth and seventh step. A violent surge of demonic energy from the supreme ancient immemorial realms frenziedly slammed into his body. A piercing sound rang out as Qin Wentian coughed out a mouthful of blood. However, his steps remained as steady as ever. Qin Wentian took the eighth step. As his step landed, a terrifying hurricane seemed to blow between the heavens and the earth, and a terrifying force rushed over. Qin Wentian moved his feet slightly, as if he was rooted to the ground. Boom boom. Two consecutive terrifying attacks caused Qin Wentian to take a step back, almost reaching the edge of the ground. His face was pale, and after he regained his balance, he spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood. His heart was in turmoil and his body was in turmoil. On the 8th step of the heavenly steel, Qin Wentian is the 5th person to stand firm. No wonder he's a genius of the unmatched realm. The gazes of the crowd were all focused on the heavenly steel steps. On the 6th step, Qiao Xian from the Mystic Maiden Palace was blasted down. Wang Xiao was just about to attempt the 7th step when his countenance stiffened. He turned his head back only to see Qiao Xian collapsing at the bottom of the steps, her aura fluctuating wildly as she coughed out blood. Luckily, her life wasn't in danger. The 8th step is a threshold. Let's see how many people can stabilize themselves. The gazes of the crowd turned sharp, only to see Sitapua, Ouyang Zheng Zong Lengfeng, Qin Wentian and the others all stopping at the 8th step, calming their auras. Evidently, they could sense that there was something different about the 8th step. 9 was the limit, but it was also a variable. Since there were already changes on the 8th step, who knew what would happen on the 9th step? They had to be extremely cautious. Those who reached the 8th step first stopped, and those who followed behind them followed suit. However, there were also quite a few who were blasted down from the 8th step. The disciple of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Lu Shi, was also extremely arrogant, but when she stepped onto the 8th step, she was ruthlessly blasted down. She didn't even have time to catch her breath before she fainted. Those who were usually pursuing her were all busy with their own matters. They naturally didn't have the time to pay attention to her. Only the female disciples of the Mystic Maiden Palace dashed forward and brought her away. Wang Xiao howled in rage. His entire body was as sharp as a weapon, indestructible. His actions caused the eyes of many in the crowd to light up. This Wang Xiao from the War Continent was truly a character. Being able to step onto the 8th step was already an extremely good result. Fatty Fan Li's face was flushed red. The blood in his body surged as golden flames ignited around him. Letting out a low roar, he also stabilized his footing on the 8th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. Ouyang Quangxing also stabilized his footing. His aura was as steady as a mountain, and although he was slower by a hair, he gave off a sense of steadiness. This didn't match his usual reputation of being a maniac. Chu Meng stared at the skies, his eyes filled with an unparalleled determination. He also stepped onto the 8th step. 9 is the limit, the 9th step. Be careful. Ouyang Quangxing spoke in a low voice. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian had already stepped out. The instant his foot landed, it was as though he was standing in the middle of a tempestuous storm. Rumble! A gigantic wave blasted over, causing his tiny boat to float. Rumble! An even more violent storm blasted over, causing the tiny boat to shatter. Qin Wentian held back his blood, but he didn't spit it out. Rumble! The third wave of attacks was even more violent and powerful, causing Qin Wentian to bend his waist. His body felt as though it was about to be flung through the air. However, Qin Wentian only managed to stand up straight again. This was only the 9th step. How could he be defeated? Stretching out his hands, he wiped away the traces of blood at the corner of his lips. Instantly, his sleeves were stained red with blood. His closed eyes finally opened as he stabilized his footing on the 9th step. 3-layered attacks, increase in strength, be careful. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice, warning Fan Lu and the rest. Fan Lu cast a glance in Xian Xian's direction, only to see Xian Xian looking at him as well. The two of them exchanged a smile. Xian Yan's eyes flickered with a strange light. This Fan Lu actually managed to ascend the 8th step as well. However, the 9th step wouldn't be so easy to overcome. I will ascend even higher than you. Fan Lu grinned at Xian Yan. Shifting his gaze over, he stepped towards the 9th step. The heavenly steel's light cascaded downwards, landing on Fan Li's slightly plump body. Instantly, Xian Yan only saw Fan Li's body shuddering violently, akin to a duckweed in the wind, on the verge of shattering at any moment. Fan Li's body arched as he coughed out blood unceasingly. However, he eventually stabilized his footing. Turning his head back, he glanced at Xian Yan. The smile on his face was as radiant as the sun. Xian Xian, I won't disappoint you. Fan Li laughed. Xian Xian nodded her head heavily as she and Xian Yan stepped onto the 9th step. Ouyang Quangxing also stepped forward. Chu Meng's eyes were filled with determination as well. This heavenly steel won't be able to stop me. Chu Meng spoke in a low voice as he stepped onto the 9th step. ignoring the torrential barrage of attacks. His back was ramrod straight, and his eyes were filled with determination. Standing there, he resembled a towering mountain. In the past, his elder brother Chu Wuwei was like a mountain to him. Now that he had descended, he wanted to become his elder brother's mountain. In that case, he had to ensure that Chu Wuwei wouldn't die of old age. He had to become stronger. Big bro Chu Mang awesome. A smile broke out on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at Chu Mang. This simple-minded and clumsy #1 prodigy of the royal capital was gradually revealing his most tenacious side. Although he didn't speak much, his heart was much more resolute than the majority of people. We will pass the 18th step together. Chu Mang grinned. This heavenly steel won't be able to obstruct our vision. Qin Wentian nodded his head. The spectators below felt their hearts trembling as they witnessed this scene. At the moment of ascending the heavenly steel steps, the various transcendent powers stood together. Qin Wentian, Ouyang Guangxing, Chu Mang and Fan Lu, the four of them stood together. But at this moment only the four of them stood solidly on the 9th step. Just a few days ago, those who were still nameless in the Azure continent were finally revealing their radiance. Arg. Situpo's expression stiffened as he turned his head to look at Yu Bingying. I will complete the path that you have yet to complete. Situpo slowly spoke as he stared ahead. His eyes were as resolute as ever as he took another step forward. He was the first to ascend the 10th step. When Situpo stepped onto the 10th step, he was even more stable compared to when he was on the 9th step. His body didn't waver in the slightest, and this made everyone understand that after he passed the 9th step, the heavenly steel steps would undergo another transformation. Let me scout the path. Qin Wentian took the initiative and stepped onto the 10th step. The instant he stepped on it, he instantly sensed that there was no longer any terrifying energy here. Instead, there was a mysterious intent enveloping him. Can your lowly will withstand the will of the ancients? Another voice rang out in his mind. Qin Wentian gazed at the heavenly steel, only to see a silhouette of him appearing on the heavenly steel. It was as though an ancient will was imprinted on the heavenly steel, gushing into his mind. Qin Wentian felt a terrifying ancient will sweeping through his will, wanting to destroy it. Scram! Qin Wentian howled in rage in his heart as his mandate at the perfection boundary erupted forth. His will of mandates at the mandate boundary transformed into an intense intent, sweeping away the ancient will as it shot towards the heavenly steel in the air. Boom! Qin Wentian's mind violently shuddered. It was as though his mandate of force was being countered by the mandate of force, wanting to destroy his mandate of force. Qin Wentian's mandate collided with the ancient will of the steel. Although he stood there calmly, he understood that the current him was in an even more dangerous situation than before. If he was not careful, his mandate would shatter, and his path of cultivation would collapse. His mandate of dream form and mandate of demonification frenziedly erupted forth. However, a moment later, 3 silhouettes of Qin Wentian appeared on the 3 heavenly steels, staring down at him with a disdainful gaze. Their gazes were ice cold, and the will of his mandate transformed into an ancient will, wanting to suppress him. Using my mandate to suppress me? How can I allow you to do as you wish? Qin Wentian mumbled, his words causing the hearts of Fan Lu and the rest to tremble. After which, they saw Qin Wentian continuing forward, passing the 10th step and stepping onto the 11th step. This time around, Qin Wentian no longer hesitated. He continued forward, using his strongest mandate to contend against the ancient will of the heavenly steel. Boom, boom, boom. Every step he took seemed calm, yet it caused the hearts of the spectators to palpitate. The gazes of the spectators stared at Qin Wentian's back, filled with determination and determination. 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. In the blink of an eye, Qin Wentian had already stepped onto the 15th step of the heavenly steel. There were only 3 more steps left, and that would be the record for the past 10 years. However, the spectators also understood that the next 3 steps would be the most terrifying. Not only could one injure their opponent, they could even sever their path of cultivation and destroy their life force. Chapter 330. On the 15th step, Qin Wentian halted his steps. The hearts of the spectators involuntarily trembled as they stared at his back. Would Qin Wentian's talent be able to surpass those who had stepped onto the heavenly steel steps in the past 10 years? Would he be able to stand on par with the record? Situpo's 3 mandates were incomparably terrifying. How could he retreat? Similarly, he continued advancing, his conviction incomparably firm. He, Situpo, couldn't afford to lose, and it was impossible for him to lose. In the blink of an eye, Situpo and Qin Wentian were both on the 15th step. Ouyang Zhang Zonglingfeng, and the other rankers on the heavenly fate rankings, how could they be weaker than juniors? They were the first to step onto the heavenly fate rankings, and although the heavenly steel steps were open due to the battle between Situpo and Qin Wentian, since they were already here, how could they lose? They were also rankers on the heavenly fate rankings. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, they similarly couldn't afford to lose. This battle was a battle of talent, a battle of conviction. All of them wanted to break the record or even surpass the 18th step. This would be extremely beneficial to their future paths. In the direction of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Li Xiu was also forced down the heavenly steel steps. Only the 2 princesses, Xian Yan and Xian Xian, were still persisting. Duan Qingshan was also persisting. Onying Guangxing, Chu Meng, and Fan Lu were still there. There was one more person who surprised the crowd. Wang Xiao had also reached the 13th step, and his will was extremely powerful, contending against the ancient will. These people are all extremely powerful. Other than the rankers on the heavenly fate rankings, there are still quite a few of them. However, both Qin Wentian and Situpo have stopped. I'm sure that the 15th step will be extremely difficult. Qin Wentian's eyes were tightly shut. At this moment, the ancient will from the heavenly steel steps grew even more intense, as a terrifying demonic energy gushed forth, wanting to tear him apart. This wasn't an illusion but a real existence. At the same time, there was also a fearsome dream-type energy, wanting to force him into a deep slumber. For the first time, Qin Wentian felt an attack from his own mandate. His mandate transformed into a terrifying ancient will, wanting to erase his will. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to be in an independent space. That space was formed by his martial arts will. He sat cross-legged, and above him, there were 3 figures of his evil will. At this moment, his will was fighting against 3 of him. Ancient will like power, ancient will like dream, ancient will like demon. In the consciousness space, Qin Wentian saw 3 figures blocking his way, as if they were insurmountable. If you take one more step forward, I will sever your will and destroy your life. The demonic Gunyan spoke evilly, exuding a terrifying demonic aura, as though he was threatening Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian could also sense it. With every step he took, the ancient will grew stronger and stronger. If he took another step forward, this ancient will would definitely reach an extreme state. Qin Wentian's will closed his eyes. Around him there were 3 different types of mandates. He didn't seem to care about the words of the ancient will, and continued sitting cross-legged. After a long time, his eyes abruptly opened. His will was incomparably terrifying, wanting to break through the clouds. A thunderous boom rang out as a raging wind kicked up. Qin Wentian's body didn't waver in the slightest. In that space, the ancient will of force grew even stronger. It bore down on Qin Wentian's will, transforming into an ancient mountain, a piece of the heavens, suppressing Qin Wentian's will. Boom! Qin Wentian's will trembled madly, that dreamlike ancient will gushed over. At this moment, Qin Wentian actually felt the urge to sleep. The demonic Gunyan attacked once more. Qin Wentian's mandates were trembling, yet he still opened his eyes and opened his mouth, howling with rage. His strength broke through the heavens and earth as he took another step forward. With a thunderous boom, his will was unyielding. He stepped onto the 16th level, his body as steady as a mountain, not moving an inch. He stabilized himself. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Qin Wentian had actually also stepped onto the 16th level. Before him, Ouyang Zonglingfeng and Situpo had all stepped onto the 16th level. Next, your path has already reached its end. Situpo faintly spoke. He could actually still speak. Everyone knew that his words were directed at Qin Wentian. As the sound of his voice faded, Situpo had already stepped onto the 17th level. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Situpa had already stepped onto the 17th level. There was only one more level before he would be able to catch up to the ancient record. On this level, Situpa's silhouette halted, as though he was frozen in place. I'm afraid that Situpa would forcefully interfere in the ranking battle at the end of the year. Based on his strength, if he could break through to the 9th level of Yuanfu, he would have a high chance of becoming one of the top 10 rankers. Situpa was indeed the most demonic genius the Sword Extinction sect had seen in recent years. He had seized the authority to cultivate all 36 mountains in the unmatched realm, causing a temporary gap in the Yuanfu level of the Sword Extinction sect. With no Yuanfu heaven chosen, Situpa would definitely be able to break through. After which, Ouyangzheng also stepped onto the 17th level. Zhang Lingfeng wasn't willing to be outdone. He unleashed his will of mandates to the extreme. Since they were able to become heaven's chosen, there was no need to doubt the strength of their wills and talent. Qin Wentian's silhouette also moved, stepping onto the 17th level. The instant he stepped onto the 17th level, his body froze in place, as though he was frozen in place. It was as though even his breathing had stopped. What's going on? The countenances of the spectators froze. None of the previous contenders were in the same state as Qin Wentian. It was as though they were all dead. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, yet Qin Wentian was still in the same position. A day later, Wang Xiao was also blasted down the heavenly steel steps. Duan Qingshan, who was attempting the 18th level, was also blasted down as though he had been struck by lightning. Qin Wentian was still standing there, unmoving. The number of contenders on the heavenly steel steps grew fewer and fewer. Those dazzling geniuses were all blasted down, and only the most dazzling contenders remained. Not only that, they had also broken the record of the past 10 years. In the past 10 years, the heavenly steel steps had been opened 3 times, and the 18th level was the highest level. However, there wasn't just one contender who had stepped onto the 18th level. They were all stuck there, unable to advance any further. The 18th level, when split into 2, was the number of double nines, the second extreme number of nines. I'm going down. Xian Xian had a bitter expression on her face. She felt that she couldn't hold on any longer. The 17th level was her limit, and if she continued to advance, there would only be 2 possibilities. Either she would break through her limits, or she would be heavily injured. Not only that, she felt that the latter was more likely. To Xian Xian, her obsession wasn't as strong as the others. After all, she was still a girl and she was still very young. After speaking, Xian Xian pushed out with both her palms, as a powerful rebounding force blasted her back. When her feet landed on the ground, her body unceasingly retreated, yet she wasn't injured. This was because she had voluntarily come down, and not because she was being blasted down. The little princess of the Mystic Maiden Palace, Xian Xian, reaching the 17th level is already not bad. Fan Lu is still persisting on the 17th level. There's also Qin Wentian, Chu Meng and Ouyang Guangxing. They're all stuck there, unable to advance any further. Xian Yan has already reached the 18th level. Her mandates are all at the perfection boundary, incomparably powerful. The gazes of the crowd shifted onto Xian Yan's silhouette, as well as onto Qin Wentian. Most probably, Qin Wentian's friend had already reached his limit, and was about to lose to Xian Yan. After all, Xian Yan was a heaven's chosen of the Azure continent, ranked number 17 on the heavenly fate rankings. Break! An earth-shattering roar thundered out, causing the crowd to be startled. They inclined their heads, only to see Chu Meng standing beside Fan Lu. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he opened his eyes. Within his eyes, an arrow could be seen piercing through the heavenly steel, a gigantic axe cleaving apart the heavens and earth. Stepping forward, a fearsome mandate erupted forth from him. With a resolute heart, there was nothing it couldn't break. Chu Meng's goal had always been simple. Only by becoming stronger and stronger would he be able to support his elder brother's cultivation, allowing his elder brother to not grow old. The terrifying ancient will reverberate it in Chu Meng's sea of consciousness. His eyes were incomparably red as he stood there, throwing his head back and howling to the heavens. As long as his will remained, so what of the heavenly steel? Who could destroy him? Busy. Numerous terrifying mandates erupted forth from his body, transforming into beams of resplendent light. That was the aura of a perfection boundary. He wanted to use the perfection boundary of a single law attribute to break apart the suppression of the ancient will. This ancient will would only grow stronger when facing the strong. Only by holding on to the strongest will would one not be influenced by the ancient will. If he failed, the consequences would be extremely tragic. Given Chu Meng's craziness, if he didn't break through, he would definitely be killed by the ancient will. Stabilized, Chu Meng tied the record. I won't lose. At this moment, a voice echoed out from Fan Li's mouth. When he opened his eyes, his gaze was exceptionally clear. It was as though Xian Xian's pure countenance could be seen on the heavenly steel. Although Fan Lu was a jovial person, he knew that despite his unattractive appearance, Xian Xian still chose him. Because of this, he was mocked and ridiculed by others. Even Xian Xian was mocked and ridiculed as well. He would always smile as though he didn't care, but in his heart he truly cared. For the sake of fighting for his pride, he couldn't allow Xian Xian to suffer the disdainful looks of others. He didn't want Xian Xian to be the target of criticism in the Mystic Maiden Palace. He wanted to prove to everyone that Xian Xian hadn't chosen him wrongly. He was a genius, Fan Lu. Stepping out, Fan Li's body glowed with golden flames as a terrifying heat permeated the air. He stepped onto the 18th step. Busy. The raging flames emanated a terrifying aura, incinerating his body. Resplendent beams of golden light erupted from his eyes as his powerful will pierced through the heavenly steel. The three wills of his mandate were being refined in the midst of the raging flames. He was Fan Lu, Fatty Fan Lu, Genius Fan Lu. Immersed in the flames, he stood on the 18th step. Haha, this is awesome. Ouyang Quangxing howled in rage. Both Fan Lu and Chu Meng had done it. How could he fall behind? Stepping out, he too dashed up the stairs. If he failed, so what if he was heavily injured? Even if he didn't break through, how could he be worthy of being called Ouyang Quangxing? Ouyang Quangxing stepped onto the 18th step, tying the record. Awesome! The hearts of the spectators sighed in admiration. Currently, there weren't many people remaining on the heavenly steel steps. Only Ouyang Zheng, Zhang Lengfeng, Xian Yan and Yu Bufan remained. These four were ranked within the top 36 of the heavenly fate rankings, as well as Situ Po, Fan Lu, Chu Meng, Ouyang Quangxing and Qin Wentian. Of the 9 remaining, 8 were on the 18th step. Only Qin Wentian remained on the 17th step. Awesome, there's no need to mention Ouyang Zheng and the other 3. Situ Po and Qin Wentian are here to compete. But Chu Meng, Fan Lu, Ouyang Quangxing and the others who came together with Qin Wentian are also terrifying. After today's battle, I'm afraid there will be many major powers willing to recruit them. However, victory and defeat had yet to be determined. Situ Po versus Qin Wentian, Xian Yan versus Fan Lu, Ouyang Zheng versus Zhang Lingfeng. All of them held an incomparably strong conviction in their hearts. Would they be able to continue advancing? Next, other than Qin Wentian, the others only needed a single step to surpass the record of the past 10 years. Who would be able to break it? Qin Wentian, who was still on the 17th step, would he still have a chance to defeat Situ Po? Chapter 331. The scene at the top of the heavenly steel steps caused the spectators to feel an intense sense of shock. 8 people stood on the 18th step while a single person stood on the 17th step. Such a magnificent scene had never been seen before in the past 10 years. It's rumored that the middle 9 steps test one's mandate. If one's mandate isn't strong enough, without the determination to break through everything, there's no way they would be able to ascend. The mandates of these people were not only strong and stable, they were also incomparably resilient. The spectators mused. But at this moment all of them halted their steps. 18, the number of double 9s, was a hurdle. Taking another step forward was too difficult. If not, in the past 10 years the geniuses wouldn't have all stopped at this point. This place was the same as the record of the past 10 years. Time slowly flowed by. The 9 of them maintained the same posture, as though they had forgotten the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. They were still standing there, their mandates growing stronger and stronger. The 18th step didn't mean stability. If one wanted to stand firm on the 18th step, their mandates had to either be firm or break through. If not, they would still be blasted off the 18th step. On the 18th step, they were overcoming themselves. Their mandates grew stronger and stronger. As long as they didn't lose, they would grow stronger and stronger. Situpa has already reached the perfection boundary in all 3 of his mandates. He's only at the 8th level of Yuanfu and has yet to step into the 9th level. As long as he steps into the 9th level of Yuanfu, he would definitely be ranked within the top 36 of the Heavenly Fate rankings. The spectators sighed in their hearts. Situpa was someone who was destined to become a Heaven's Chosen. Now that he encountered the Heavenly Steel Steps, how could he not grab hold of this opportunity? This appearance of the Heavenly Steel Steps was an extremely good opportunity for demon-level geniuses. But to the mediocre it was a nightmare. Just like Ouyang Ting, the Heavenly Steel Steps allowed her to see what level she was at. Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng are about to attempt it. At this moment, the spectators only saw Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng advancing towards the final 9 steps. The 2 of them were ranked 10th and 12th on the Heavenly Fate rankings respectively. Hence, right from the start they already had the intention to compete against each other. What was waiting for them on the final 9 steps of the Heavenly Steel Steps? Would Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng be able to surpass their limits? Everyone was looking at him. Fresh blood splattered through the air. Almost at the same instant, Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng were flung through the air, directly falling from the 18th step, flying back to where they came from. A few silhouettes soared through the air, catching the 2 of them. These were the experts from the Ouyang aristocrat clan and multidirectional Thunderwind sect. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. Ultimately, he still failed to break the record. However, tying the record also proved their talent. After all, in the past 10 years, those who could reach the 18th level were all extremely outstanding people. When Xian Yan and Yu Bufan saw this scene, they knew that they were about to face the strongest test. Ancient Dream Will, you can't stop me. At this moment, a soft sigh rang out. After that, the crowd saw Qin Wentian, who was on the 17th step, moving. His foot landed on the 18th step, and abruptly, his martial will trembled. The ancient will was like force, dreamlike, demon-like. All of them frenziedly attacked. However, Qin Wentian's will of mandate remained unextinguished. No matter how the tempest of attacks rained down on him, no matter how much stronger his will of mandate was, he was unyielding, and undying. His steps were as steady as a mountain, standing on the 18th step, becoming the 9th person to reach the 18th step. Today 9 people had reached the 18th step. But at this moment the 2 strongest among them, Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng, had both failed. Only 7 people remained, and all of them were still on the 18th step. Xian Yan finally steeled her heart and continued to rush upwards. With an incomparably intense will, she stepped onto the 19th step. However, an instant later, she let out a scream of agony as she was flung through the air like a kite with a broken string. Xian Yan's attempt to reach the 19th step was announced as a failure. Now only 6 people remained. After that, Yu Bufan also attempted to reach the 19th step, but similarly he failed. Only 5 people remained. The 4 Heavens Chosen ranked within the top 36 of the Heavenly Fate rankings had all failed to reach the 19th step. Such a scene was extremely tragic. Situpa, Qin Wentian, Ouyang Quangxing, Chu Meng and Fan Lu. Did these 5 still have any hope? The distance of a single step is akin to a chasm. I, Situpa, will not lose, I cannot lose. Situpa inclined his head, staring at the heavenly steel. His silhouette seemed to be there. How could he, Situpa, be defeated by Qin Wentian? He could leave the unmatched realm, but he couldn't allow himself to be expelled. He couldn't afford to lose so much face. Among the 4 Heavens Chosen of the Azure continent, none of them were from the Sword Extinction sect. All of them had failed. He, Situpa, couldn't be defeated not only for himself, but also for the Sword Extinction sect. His heart had never been this resolute before. He stepped out, and in that instant Situpa's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. It was as though he had just experienced a life-and-death battle. With a howl of rage, boundless energy erupted forth, protecting his body from destruction. He was Situpa, he had to win. Boom! Another step. Situpa stood on the 19th step as a terrifying shockwave swept across the entire staircase. That silhouette of his back caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. That was Situpa of the Sword Extinction sect. He stood on the 19th step, accomplishing what Ouyang Zheng and Zhang Lingfeng had failed to do. He had broken the record of the past 10 years. Today he would become the most dazzling character. It was as though the heavenly steel steps had been opened for him. I won. A smile could be seen on Yu Binging's face. This was her man Situpa. Even though she was injured and her body was still trembling, she didn't care. Situpa had become the most dazzling character. She glanced at those from the Azure Emperor Palace, as well as those from the Sword Extinction sect. They should all be proud of Situpa. She then glanced at the silhouette of Qin Wentian. His death date would soon arrive. Seems like an extremely powerful character will appear on the heavenly fate rankings. Ouyingzheng inclined his head, staring at Situpa as he spoke in a low voice. Xianyan nodded her head lightly. Situpa had accomplished what she had failed to do. If I win, don't interfere with me and Xian Xian anymore. At this moment, Fan Li's voice abruptly drifted over, causing Xianyan's eyes to narrow. After which, she saw Fan Li's chubby frame trembling as he advanced towards the 19th step. Xianyan, I will defeat you for sure. With a howl of rage, both of Fan Li's feet landed on the 19th step. At this moment it was as though he didn't fear death. That chubby frame of his, in the eyes of the spectators, grew taller and taller. Nobody would have thought that fatty Fan Lu would actually ascend to the 19th step. Fan Lu. Xian Xian's beautiful eyes were filled with hot tears as she stared at his back. Poochie sounds rang out as fresh blood splattered from Fan Li's body. Yet he still stood there, not moving an inch. Xianyan, did I win? Fan Li's voice drifted over. Xianyan stared at his bleeding body as her heart and soul trembled. She opened her mouth, yet she didn't know what to say. Voila! Fresh blood gushed forth. Fan Li's arms were on the verge of breaking apart. Senior sister. Xian Xian stared at Xianyan as tears flowed unceasingly down her cheeks. Xianyan nodded her head lightly as she stared at the skies. I've lost. Pung. As the sound of her voice faded, Fan Li's body flew down from the skies. Xian Xian dashed out, grabbing hold of Fan Lu as she landed on the ground. Fan Lu smiled at her. Xian Xian, you didn't misjudge this genius, right? I didn't misjudge. 2 streams of tears flowed down Fan Li's cheeks. Fan Lu closed his eyes and with a smile on his face he fainted. Fan Lu became the second person to break the record. Although he only paused for a short moment, he still stood on the 19th step, breaking the record of the past 10 years. Chu Meng also made his attempt, howling in rage. However, he failed. Although he was defeated, he had no regrets. He had done his best. Ouyang Guangxing also made his attempt. At the instant he stepped onto the 19th step, he cursed, fuck, this daddy doesn't want to play anymore. As the sound of his voice faded, he was also jolted down from the impact. However, he was able to defend himself and wasn't seriously injured. He cursed, is this heavenly steel something humans can play with? Too ruthless. He felt as though he was on the verge of death earlier. That pitiful look on Fan Li's face was definitely not an illusion. On the heavenly steel steps only 2 people remained. Situpa on the 19th step, and Qin Wentian on the 18th step. This heavenly steel steps had originally been opened for them. Who knew if it was a coincidence, but in the end only the 2 of them remained. However, could Qin Wentian really fight against Situpa? That single step was akin to a chasm. How many people had fallen at that step? Ouyingzheng, Zonglingfeng, Xianyan, Yu Bufan, none of them dared to attempt it. Only Situpa succeeded. As for Fan Lu, he could be considered to have succeeded by half a step. He fought for the sake of love, for the sake of not bringing shame to Xian Xian. He told Xianyan, the Mystic Maiden Palace, and the people of the Azure Continent that he, Fan Lu, wasn't inferior to any of the other geniuses. After Situpa steadied himself, he turned his head and cast a glance at Qin Wentian. Calmly, he stated, the distance of a single step is akin to a chasm. But the chasm between you and me is definitely not just a single step. As the sound of his voice faded, Situpa once again stepped onto the 20th step. Who? The crowd drew in a deep breath, their hearts pounding. Situpa was still advancing. As for Qin Wentian, his eyes were closed, as though he was still struggling on the 18th step. Was there really a need for this battle? 3 days passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. 10 days passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. 1 month passed, Qin Wentian was still the same. Situpa stepped onto the 21st step, shaking off Qin Wentian by 3 steps, 3 insurmountable chasms. However, they discovered that Qin Wentian, who was still standing there with his eyes closed, was gradually growing stronger. Only when his will reached the perfection boundary would he be able to contend against the ancient will of the heavenly steel. At that time he would be in his strongest state, advancing forward. Chapter 332. Time flowed by as many people departed. Ouyingzheng, Zhang Lingfeng and the rest all went into closed-door seclusion. Many from the major powers also departed as well. On the heavenly steel steps, only two people remained, Situpa and Qin Wentian. No matter how high Situpo's rank was, the rest of the major powers would know that there was no need for them to guard the heavenly steel steps every day. For example, those from the Sword Extinction Sect and the Azure Emperor Palace. Other than them, Ouyang Quangsheng, Chu Mang, Fan Lu and the rest were also present. 2 months had already passed and the injuries of those who were injured had long since healed. However, Qin Wentian was still standing there, causing Fan Lu and the rest to feel extremely helpless. Currently, the doubts and suspicions regarding Qin Wentian continued unabated. Could it be that he was planning to continue wasting time here? Until Situpa left? Currently, Situpa had already reached the 23rd step, and it seemed as though he was cultivating with his eyes closed. Not many people believed that Qin Wentian would be able to win. The outcome of this battle was already decided. How difficult would it be to ascend from the 18th step to the 23rd step? How long is Qin Wentian going to cultivate for? Xian Xian spoke in a low voice beside Fan Lu. She was also accompanying Fan Lu. The people from the Mystic Maiden Palace, because of Fan Li's outstanding performance, actually didn't intentionally make things difficult for him and Xian Xian. Although this didn't mean that they had agreed to the relationship between them, at the very least, it proved that Fan Lu had taken a step forward, causing the Mystic Maiden Palace to not immediately separate them. Could it be that he is intentionally waiting until the end of the year? At that time, Situpo would definitely head to Ginkgo. That way, even if Qin Wentian was defeated, he would still be able to live. Not far away, Yu Bingying coldly spoke. She had always been paying attention to Situpo. Similarly, she wanted to see the ending. She wanted to see Qin Wentian's defeat. Boom! At this moment, atop the heavenly steel steps, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from Situpa. His back was ramrod straight as he stared at the heavenly steel steps. His cultivation base, 9th level of Yuanfu. His 3 mandates had all reached the perfection boundary. From today onwards, he truly had the qualifications to contend for the top few rankings of the heavenly fate rankings. I broke through. Yu Bingying's beautiful eyes shone with a brilliant light as she smiled. From today onwards, Situpa was no longer a quasi-heavens chosen, but a true heavens chosen. In fact, he might even be the strongest heavens chosen in the current generation of the Sword Extinction Sect. Xian Yin and Li Shiyu were also present. When they saw Situpa breaking through, they couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Situpa was truly amazing. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be any heavenly steel steps, and I wouldn't have been able to reach the perfection boundary in such a short period of time. Initially, I thought I would only be able to do so before heading to Ginkgo, but now I have more time to prepare. Situpa calmly stated, his words causing the crowd to sigh. The battle between Qin Wentian and Situpa had caused the unmatched old man to borrow the heavenly steel. Who would have thought that the unmatched old man would become Situpo's benefactor? Situpo indeed has to thank Qin Wentian, Li Shiyu calmly stated. Xian Yin lightly nodded her head. The current Situpa was already strong enough to threaten her. When Qin Wentian was at the 8th level of Yuanfu, his combat prowess was already extremely terrifying. At this moment, Situpa continued, however, although I have to thank you, at the end of the heavenly steel steps, I will still take your life. After speaking, Situpa stepped forth once more, as an incomparably terrifying will appeared in his heart. Situpa ascended the 24th step, reaching a terrifying height. The heavenly steel steps are simply too difficult. Just this step alone would allow me to look down on countless heroes. Situpa sighed deeply as he sat down cross-legged on the heavenly steel steps. The 24th step of the heavenly steel steps. The smile on Yu Bingying's face grew even more intense. Other than Situpa, who else would be able to accomplish this? As the sound of her voice faded from afar, a white-robed silhouette could be seen walking over. This white-robed silhouette was like a transcendent being, exuding an aura of extreme coldness. She slowly walked up the heavenly steel steps. 1 step, 9 steps. After 9 steps, she coughed out a mouthful of blood, but the blood didn't even stain her white robes. It's her. Yu Bingying's beautiful eyes froze, as did Li Shiyu and the others. Yun Mengyi, clad in robes as white as snow, exuded an icy aura. She was as elegant as a snow lotus on an icy mountain, unaffected by the mundane world. Yet today she also appeared here, stepping onto the heavenly steel steps. In the blink of an eye, she had already reached the 18th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. How powerful! When the spectators saw this, they couldn't help but fall into a daze. Yun Mengyi also had the authority to cultivate in all 36 halls, yet she managed to ascend the 18th step in such a short amount of time. How resolute was her heart! How firm was her will of mandate! Not only that, she didn't halt her steps, she continued advancing, ascending the 19th step, the 20th step. Very swiftly, she arrived at the 24th step, standing shoulder to shoulder with Situpo. Situpo's eyes narrowed, his heart pounding as he stared at Yun Mengyi in shock. How could this be? Not long ago, he was still boasting about how difficult the heavenly steel steps were. Just this step alone would allow him to look down on countless heroes. Yun Mengyi didn't halt her steps. She continued ascending the 25th step, the 26th step. Finally she halted, standing there like a fairy from the mortal world, unexcelled in this world. For Situpo to reach this step, how much effort had he expended? How many heroes had he defeated? However, Yun Mengyi, whose countenance was as cold as ice, had surpassed him in less than an hour. Such a scene caused the spectators to be dumbfounded. Situpo wasn't willing to accept this, he still wanted to compete. With an incomparably intense will in his heart, he continued ascending the 25th step, only a single step away from Yun Mengyi. But this single step caused him to hesitate. At this moment Qin Wentian finally moved. Qin Wentian moved. He's preparing to ascend the 19th step. The gazes of the spectators instantly landed on Qin Wentian. The demonic qi radiating from him was even stronger than before, as though his life was that of a demon. Stepping out, Qin Wentian landed on the 19th step. 9 beams of light descended from the heavenly steel, landing on Qin Wentian's body. There was no way to evade these 9 beams of light. Puchi! A light sound rang out as the 9 beams of light slashed downwards. Qin Wentian's body twitched. He finally understood why so many geniuses failed at this step, unable to ascend. Flesh and blood, mortal thoughts and fragile lives. How could they not fear death? Just think about it, who would have such courage and such persistence? An intense pain coursed through his entire body. Qin Wentian's heart turned cold, and in an instant fresh blood dripped from a certain location on his chest. Over there a bloody wound could be seen. He finally understood what Fanlu had experienced, what he had endured. Was this real or was it fake? If it was real, why didn't he die? If it was fake, where did the blood come from? Where did the intense pain come from? Truth and fake, it all depended on a single thought. Qin Wentian took another step forwards, moving towards the 20th step. Without a doubt, Qin Wentian had succeeded. He became the 3rd person after Situpo Yun Mengyi and Fan Lu to be able to stand stably on the 19th step. On the 20th step, a beam of light pierced through Qin Wentian's chest, penetrating through his heart. If one didn't experience this, they wouldn't be able to understand. At this moment, his will determined his life and death. If he retreated a single step, he would die. Qin Wentian laughed as he continued walking forwards. He already understood what kind of terrifying will he was facing now. If his heart wasn't resolute enough, he would die. If his will wavered, he would die. Every step he took was akin to coming into contact with the Grim Reaper. Earlier, if his will wavered in the slightest, that sharp blade that pierced through his heart would become a reality. He would die for real, just like those who were injured when they tried to ascend the 19th step. No wonder the other geniuses retreated. No wonder Ouyang Quangxing cursed out loud. No wonder Fan Lu was so heavily injured for the sake of that will. How can this be? He actually succeeded? The spectators below were all stunned. They saw Qin Wentian ascending step by step without pause. He reached the 21st step, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th. He was the same as Yun Mengyi, ascending in a single breath. At this moment he was on the same level as Situpa, who said he had been defeated, consecutively being surpassed by Yunmangi and caught up to by Qin Wentian. The smile on Situpo's face vanished. He no longer had the confidence he had earlier. Astonishment, shock. How could this be? Why was their conviction so strong? Why were their wills so resolute? You've lost, Qin Wentian calmly stated. Situpo's countenance changed as he coldly stated, even if you reach this step, what qualifications do you have to say that I've lost? Your will has already wavered. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, he stepped forwards, ascending the 26th step. In that instant, he was on the same level as Yunmangi, overtaking Situpo. Powerful, Fan Lu exclaimed in a low voice. Such a counterattack was truly exhilarating. On the heavenly steel steps, Situpo isn't the only one. Right now he's the last one. Fan Lu stared at Yu Binging, as though he wanted to refute her earlier words. There were 24 steps on the heavenly steel steps. Other than Situpo, who else could achieve it? If you can do it, how can I fail? Situpo spoke, after which, he walked up the stairs as well. The 26th level was filled with indescribable pain. His will was being severed bit by bit, and his obsession was being stripped away bit by bit. However, he still stood there. In a deep breath, Situpo's body trembled uncontrollably. He stood on the 26th step of the heavenly steel steps. He had accomplished it. The three of them were evenly matched on the 26th step of the heavenly steel path. The last floor. The spectators below felt their hearts pounding violently. They had just witnessed a historical moment. Luckily, they hadn't left yet. The three of them were only a single step away from the highest point of the heavenly steel steps. However, who would dare to take this step? Yunmingi was the first to step out. In an instant, the three heavenly steel steps and the boundless ancient will cascaded downwards, landing on her body. In an instant, the spectators witnessed a horrifying scene. Yunmingi's body was being stripped away bit by bit, as countless beams of light rained down on her, wanting to destroy her body, wanting to turn her into ashes. Puchi. Blood splattered as Yunmingi's body collapsed onto the ground. Her fresh blood dyed her white robes red as she rolled down the steps, turning her entire person into a blood-soaked figure. Yunmingi could be said to be the most dazzling person ever since the opening of the heavenly steel steps. She used the shortest amount of time and was only a single step away from the final step. However, she was also the one in the most miserable state. Rolling down the steps unceasingly, her white robes were dyed red with blood, causing the spectators to be unable to bear to look at her. Was she dead or alive? Situpo's heart trembled. Yunmingi's pitiful state caused his conviction to waver once again. On the 26th step, he was already on the verge of collapsing. But Yunmingi's condition was much better than his when she stepped onto the 26th step. But now what would happen if he took another step? No matter how strong his conviction was, it would still waver in the face of death. You are afraid, Qin Wentian calmly stated. Situpo's countenance froze. He stared at Qin Wentian beside him as he stated, this final step, nobody can achieve it. At the very least, I want to give it a try. Qin Wentian had never been so calm before. He wanted to become one of the top 3 rankers in the Heavenly Fate rankings. He wanted to head to the Pill Emperor Hall. How many thorns would there be in his future? At the very least, he couldn't afford to lose today. How could he lose? Do you know who you are? A voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind as a smile appeared on his face. Who was he? He was Qin Wentian. He stepped onto the final step, experiencing what Yunmingi had experienced. He allowed the boundless ancient will to seep into his body as he stood there with a smile on his face, staring up at the heavenly steel. Your will can't destroy my body. Your will can't extinguish my will. Your will can't move my heart. Qin Wentian stared at the heavenly steel as he continued. I am Qin Wentian, my fate is akin to a demon's. Chapter 333. I am Qin Wentian, my life is akin to that of a demon. Qin Wentian stood below the heavenly steel as he softly murmured. However, his voice was filled with determination. The life of a demon was incomparably tough. Powerful ancient demons, As long as they still had a single breath left in them, they wouldn't die. Qin Wentian had only experienced a short period of time in his life, yet his life was as tough as a demon's. He would always be able to escape death. Today, leaving aside the fact that he had to fight against Situpa, how could he lose to the Heavenly Steel's ancient will? This ancient will wouldn't be able to kill him. The Heavenly Steel Steps, 27th step. Reach the top? The spectators below stared up at the sky, as great waves of shock rocked their hearts. Situpa, who was the first to step up, was still hesitating. Yunmingyi, who had unparalleled talent, was forcefully smashed down, sustaining heavy injuries. However, Qin Wentian, who was the last to step up, carried an incomparably strong will as he stood at the end of the Heavenly Steel Steps. He stood there, as though he could touch the heavenly steel with his bare hands. How can this be? Yu Bingying couldn't believe her eyes. Qin Wentian actually managed to stand firm. He stood right below the heavenly steel, basking in the astral light, allowing the energy to flow through his body, yet he remained unmoved. Xian Yan, Xian Xian, Li Shiyu and the rest all inclined their heads, staring at this inconceivable scene. This was a feat that no one had ever accomplished before. Today, had Qin Wentian accomplished it? Xian Yan had personally experienced the might of the 19th step. She knew how terrifying that place was. And Qin Wentian was on the 27th step. She had no way to imagine how terrifying that place would be. However, Qin Wentian had accomplished it. Is the will of humans innately born, or is it tempered later on? Xian Yan mumbled in a low voice, as though she was asking herself. She didn't know she was born in a great clan, had outstanding talent, and was the pearl of the clan. After that, she entered the Mystic Maiden Palace to cultivate and experienced many things. With her outstanding talent, she didn't lack cultivation resources. Yet the Mystic Maiden Palace still sent her on dangerous missions, forcing her to compete with other outstanding geniuses. She was able to stand out from the rest and become the princess of the Mystic Maiden Palace, not only because of her talent, she also had a tenacious heart. But why was there still such a gap between her and Qin Wentian? She couldn't help but wonder if cultivating in a powerful family or sect was really better than cultivating alone. As for Qin Wentian, he didn't seem to know which sect he belonged to. It should be the day after tomorrow. Xian Xian mumbled. A person's innate talent might be determined by one's innate talent, but one's achievements were not determined by one's innate talent. Whether one's will was strong or not, it had nothing to do with innate talent. Yun Mengyi sat cross-legged on the ground, her body heavily injured. Initially, she was closing her eyes to meditate, but at this moment she opened her eyes. Within her beautiful eyes, a hint of a smile could be seen. However, this smile of hers, no one could understand the meaning behind it. Ouyang Guangxing, Fan Lu, Chu Meng and the rest were all stunned, but naturally they were also filled with joy. Qin Wentian had already reached the end of the Heavenly Steel Steps. Would Situpa dare to take that final step? Situpa stared at Qin Wentian, his heart wavering. He was the third person in this generation to have the authority to cultivate the 36 mountains. Before him there was Yun Mengyi and now there was Qin Wentian. Both of them had already taken that final step. How could he, Situpa, not dare to? Qin Wentian stood there calmly, but from Yun Mengyi's reaction, one could tell that Qin Wentian wasn't as simple as he appeared to be. To him right now, no one knew what he was experiencing. If he took that final step, he might end up like Qin Wentian, enduring a myriad of pain. As long as his heart didn't waver, he would be able to endure it. But there was also the possibility that he would end up like Yun Mengyi, being blasted down the steps with heavy injuries. Naturally, there was also another possibility. If his heart was too weak, he might even die on the spot. If I don't take that final step, I won't be able to rest easy. Situpa was also a rare genius. He questioned his own heart. He wanted to overcome his fear, to overcome his desire to retreat. He wanted to strengthen his will, to strengthen his will, to strengthen his stubbornness once more. In fact, in today's battle, both he and Qin Wentian had already obtained great benefits. He stepped into the 9th level of Yuanfu, with all 3 of his mandates at the perfection boundary. As for Qin Wentian, since he could break through to the 18th level, it was obvious that his mandate had undergone a transformation. Not only that, his state of heart had also undergone a transformation. Powerful opponents would sometimes destroy their opponents, but at the same time, they could also mutually benefit each other. In this battle, he and Qin Wentian were mutually benefiting each other. Without Qin Wentian, without Yun Mengyi, he wouldn't have been able to allow his heart to become so resolute, allowing him to walk all the way here. Similarly, without him, whether Qin Wentian could ascend to the 19th level or not was a variable. If he stopped at the 18th level, maybe when Qin Wentian ascended to the 19th level, Qin Wentian would have already lost his will. Just like Fan Lu, he wholeheartedly fought against Xian Yan, for the sake of Xian Xian. Xian Yan stopped at the 18th level, but he gave it his all and ascended to the 19th level, sustaining heavy injuries. However, was that really his limit? Could he break through that limit? Since he was already there, why couldn't he stand firm? Because Xian Yan had admitted defeat. And after that, Fan Lu was blasted down from the 19th level. Finally, Situpa took the final step. But only at the instant he took the final step did he understand what Yun Mengyi had experienced. In just an instant, Situpa was blasted down. His entire body dyed red with blood. His heart pounded madly, almost exploding to death. Why don't you ask, when your heart is about to shatter, when your will is severed, can your heart really remain unmoved? Situpa was blasted down, lying on the ground. Yu Bingying instantly rushed to his side, supporting his body. However, she only saw Situpa grabbing onto Yu Bingying's arm as he sat up. Although his entire body was dyed red with blood, his gaze was still fixed on Qin Wentian. How did he do it? In the past 10 years, the heavenly steel steps have been opened 3 times, making it much more convenient for the people of the Azure continent. However, even for those outstanding geniuses who had the opportunity to ascend the heavenly steel steps, they might not be able to achieve what I did. How many people can achieve this? Situpa stared at the back view of Qin Wentian. At this moment, a complicated expression flickered in his eyes. I've lost, Situpa mumbled in a low voice. You didn't, it's just a momentary lapse in thought. This doesn't count for anything, Yu Bingying consoled. A loss is a loss. This isn't a momentary lapse in thought. Even if I was given another chance, I still wouldn't be able to do it, Situpa replied in a low voice. This was the first time in his life that he had been defeated. Yu Bingying's heart pounded violently. She inclined her head, staring at Qin Wentian. He was still standing at the foot of the heavenly steel steps. Situpa had been defeated by him. Before this, Yu Bingying wanted to meet him when she heard that his talent wasn't weak. At that time she didn't care too much about him. But today he had defeated her pride, Situpa. This was the first time Yu Bingying heard the word defeat coming out of Situpa's mouth. Situpa, it's just a single defeat. Based on your talent, don't let it affect your state of heart. Yu Bingying stared at Situpa, worried that his will would suffer a blow. Don't worry, my heart is resolute. Situpa stared at Qin Wentian, as a cold light flashed in his eyes. This person's will is even more terrifying than mine. It doesn't matter if he's expelled from the unmatched realm or not. What's important is that he must die. Situpa spoke in a low voice, his countenance resolute, as an intense killing intent flickered in his eyes. After this battle, he truly admired Qin Wentian. However, this didn't affect his determination to kill Qin Wentian in the slightest. In fact, his determination only grew stronger. Qin Wentian had to die. But that old man. Yu Bingying spoke in a low voice. Qin Wentian stood at the highest point of the heavenly steel steps. This battle was decided by that old man. If she wanted to kill Qin Wentian now, that old man would definitely participate. I know, I'll recuperate first, Situpa replied. After which, he closed his eyes and focused on recuperating. Although defeat was a blow to him, it didn't affect his heart at all. He had already ascended to the 26th level, and was only a single step away from the top. There was nothing for him to regret, nor would there be any demons in his heart. Not only that, if he thought on the bright side, his strength had also risen by leaps and bounds. Wasn't that a good thing? As long as Qin Wentian died, everything would come to a perfect end. As for his tarnished reputation, he still had a chance to redeem it. The trip to Ginkgo, the ranking battle of the heavenly fate rankings. At that time, who would dare to doubt him, Situpa? He would definitely be ranked on the heavenly fate rankings. As for the current Qin Wentian, What he was experiencing right now was far more complicated than what the spectators had imagined. At this moment, his will had actually entered the heavenly steel. The ancient will of the heavenly steel. The heavenly steel has its own will? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. At this moment, in front of his eyes, there was a majestic ancient kingdom, exuding a majestic aura. What made Qin Wentian even more shocked was that he felt a sense of déjà vu back then. When I was in the tiny astral being, I saw my old fogey father bringing away a maiden from the ancient kingdom. Seems like this is the place. Qin Wentian recalled the scene from a few years ago. It was as though he was replying to that scene. Abruptly, his body violently trembled. That beautiful maiden, it seemed to be her. As he thought of this, great waves of shock rocked Qin Wentian's heart. How could this be? What was going on exactly? Gazing ahead, this ancient kingdom was even more resplendent than what he remembered. Atop the jade steps, a silhouette wielding a longsword could be seen. That silhouette stood there, her long hair fluttering in the wind, exuding an unexcelled aura. This was a woman so beautiful that it dazzled the hearts of others. Just by standing there, she seemed to be able to stun the heavens. On top of the stairs, an army of 9 people stood in the lead. These 9 people all exuded an inconceivably powerful aura, yet when they stared at the maiden in front of them, a hint of admiration could be seen in their eyes. Princess Tianyu, the ancient kingdom has already been destroyed. Granxia has been split into 9 parts. Don't resist anymore. One of the 9 people slowly spoke, his eyes filled with unmasked greed as he stared at Princess Tianyu. If Qin Wentian had read the ancient records regarding the disappearance of Granxia, he would know that Princess Tianyu was the last princess of Granxia. She was also the most outstanding character in the history of Granxia. No one could compare to her. With regards to Princess Tianyu's ending, there were many rumors circulating in Granxia. However, the majority of the rumors were of a tragic ending. Princess Tianyu was a peerless beauty, as well as her shocking talent. How could she not be humiliated when she fell into the hands of those people? Every time those who read about the history of Granxia read about the story of Princess Tianyu, they would involuntarily feel pain in their hearts. But today, Qin Wentian had actually personally witnessed this scene in the heavenly steel. Chapter 334. Although Qin Wentian didn't know much about the destruction of the Great Xia Empire thousands of years ago, he had heard of it. In the past, the Great Xia Empire didn't have 9 cities, and there weren't so many overlord-level forces. The Grand Xia Empire unified the entire world. Countless experts were under the control of the Grand Xia Empire. Once upon a time, Grand Xia was unfathomably powerful. Nobody could stand against it. After that, Grand Xia was divided into 9 parts, resulting in the 9 continents. After that, the various transcendent powers started to rise, dividing Grand Xia among themselves. As for the ancient dynasty of today, it was no longer the ancient dynasty of the past. Many years ago, when Great Xia was divided into 9 parts, it marked the end of the ancient dynasty. Now, it was rumored that only one branch of the ancient dynasty was left. As for whether the rumors were true or false, it had yet to be verified. Therefore, when Qin Wentian saw the scene in front of him, his heart could not help but tremble slightly. What kind of treasure is this heavenly monument? It actually recorded the destruction of the ancient dynasty. Does this mean that this heavenly monument is a relic of the ancient dynasty? Qin Wentian thought. As it turned out, the heavenly steel platform that had been in the Azure continent for so many years actually had a secret. When did this heavenly steel hall appear in Azure Continent City? Many doubts surfaced in his mind, but at this moment, Qin Wentian was still watching the scene in front of him. A terrifying aura erupted from Princess Tianyu's body, and there seemed to be a true dragon coiling around her sword. Princess Tianyu, do you want to destroy Granxia completely? A cold voice rang out from that person's mouth, causing despair to fill Princess Tianyu's eyes. That person walked in front of Princess Tianyu, staring at her beauty as he greedily spoke. Princess, do you know that we've admired you for a very long time? Princess Tianyu's face was pale. She bit her lips and her expression was extremely cold. Are you willing to leave behind descendants for us? They will inherit our position. They will be the only remaining descendants of the emperor's bloodline in Grand Xia. The middle-aged man looked at Princess Tianyu and said in a loud voice. Princess Tianyu's face turned even paler, and the hand holding the sword trembled. Did she want to preserve the bloodline of Granxia? These people wanted to sully her. If you agree, put down the sword in your hand. Princess Tianyu's body trembled. She was in incomparable pain. Her heart felt like it was being tormented in purgatory. She was not reconciled. If the thief did not die, she could not die. With a soft sound, the sword fell to the ground. A sinister smile appeared on the face of the middle-aged man. After which, he slowly walked forwards, his hands caressing Princess Tianyu's skin. How greedy was he? He was finally going to obtain this woman who had stunned the entire Granxia. With a wave of his hand, everyone except for the 9 of them left. The middle-aged man's hand brushed past Princess Tianyu's robes. Gradually, her robes fell off, revealing her flawless jade-like skin. Her perfect body appeared before his eyes. Xia Tianyu, you're so beautiful. The sinister light in the middle-aged man's eyes burned brightly as his hands caressed every inch of her beautiful body. Princess Tianyu's tears slowly flowed down her cheeks, but her heart was incomparably resolute. She swore that even if it took 1,000 years or 10,000 years, she would take revenge. Destroy the divine steel and split it into 9. Each of us will get one. The middle-aged man spoke in a low voice. The 8 of them turned and faced the divine steel outside the ancient palace of Granxia. From now on, the 9 ultimate arts of Granxia shall be the sole hegemon of our 9 branches. Although the divine steel cannot be destroyed, the 9 of us shall never meet again, and the divine steel shall never be restored. That man greedily bit down on Princess Tianyu's skin, hugging her perfect body as he walked out of the palace. After which, rumbling sounds rang out as the other 8 attacked the divine steel. This was the final scene, and it had an extremely great impact on Qin Wentian. He could already guess a few things. Firstly, the scene before his eyes was the final scene of the divine steel. This meant that the 3-sided divine steel above his head was none other than the original divine steel that had been split into 9. However, 3 of the 9 sides had been collected here. Secondly, the 9 prefectures of Granxia must have originated from this. How pitiful Princess Tianyu was, to suffer such humiliation. As for what happened to her afterwards, it was still a mystery. As for the middle-aged man's words, after the divine steel was destroyed, the 9 ultimate arts would be the sole hegemon of Granxia. Could this mean that the 9 of them had cultivated the 9 ultimate arts of Granxia, and these 9 ultimate arts were all contained within the divine steel? They wanted the 9 pieces of the divine steel to never meet again, never to be reunited. Who? Retracting his will, Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath as a mysterious pressure bore down on him. Qin Wentian's heart stirred as the Yellow Springs monument appeared, hovering in the air as a heart-palpitating aura of blood gushed forth. Can your body of flesh and blood withstand the force of your attack? Qin Wentian recalled the ancient will of the heavenly steel. That was an attack of pure force, followed by an attack of the will of mandates. As for the Yellow Springs monument, it was an attack of the power of blood. However, he was the one controlling the Yellow Springs monument. Hence, the power it could unleash wasn't strong enough. The Yellow Springs monument was obtained by the Azure Emperor, and was later controlled by Fairy Qingmei. She placed it on the refinement grounds of the immortal soul, setting up the ancient pathway of the Yellow Springs. This was also a test of one's talent and will. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. The Yellow Springs monument that the Azure Emperor had obtained was also a fragment of the divine steel. However, there were still clouds of unanswered questions. Could it be that the 9 meridians no longer existed? There were 3 pieces of the divine steel here, but why didn't anyone come to snatch them away? Could it be that the owner of the heavenly steel was so powerful? Not only that, after the divine steel was separated, it was clear that it could be controlled by a person. Just like how he could control the Yellow Springs monument to unleash immense power. In that case, were the ancient wills within the 3 heavenly steels really the original will of the heavenly steel? Or was it controlled by someone else? Naturally, the most important question was, what did all of this have to do with him? He wasn't even 20 yet, and his old fogey father must have died after he was born. It was impossible for him to be someone from a few thousand years ago. Why was it that he was the one who ended up here, in front of the heavenly steel? Could it be that everything was just a coincidence? This was impossible, because the maiden that his old fogey father brought away from Granxia was extremely similar to a certain person, Yun Mangi. Forget it, it would be too wasteful if I don't cultivate properly. Qin Wentian had no way to unravel the mystery in his heart. He could only discard all distracting thoughts and close his eyes to cultivate. Luckily, the ancient will of the heavenly steel had weakened, or else he would have died without a doubt. However, this also confirmed his suspicions that someone was controlling the heavenly steel. After a period of time, Qin Wentian tossed aside all distracting thoughts and focused on his cultivation. After experiencing a baptism of his state of heart, this was the most suitable time for him to break through to the next level. Situpa had broken through under such conditions, and he could do the same as well. The ancient will of the heavenly steel has weakened. Below, Fan Lu and the rest felt their hearts trembling. What's going on? Ouyang Quangxing had a puzzled expression on his face. Situpa also didn't understand, but he was still recovering from his injuries, and didn't have the time to think too much about it. However, at this moment, Yun Mengi's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at the silhouette atop the heavenly steel steps. You've lost. A voice abruptly drifted into Yun Mengi's ears. Nobody noticed it, only Yun Mengi had heard it. Yun Mengi nodded her head lightly. She knew that she had lost. Today, she naturally didn't come here to help Qin Wentian. She was the same as Situpa. She came here to spar with Qin Wentian. However, she had lost. She didn't manage to ascend to the highest level and obtain the divine steel that belonged to her. Since you've lost, from now onwards you should be loyal to him. You won't disgrace yourself. For this trip to Granxia, accompany him. You are more familiar with that place than him. That voice drifted over once more. Yun Mengi inclined her head, staring at Qin Wentian. Maybe this was her destiny. This time around, Qin Wentian only used a month to break through the bottleneck of the 6th level of Yuanfu, stepping into the 7th level of Yuanfu. Not only him, but those who had ascended the heavenly steel steps had also improved, especially those who had ascended to the 18th step. All of them had experienced a sublimation of their martial wills, a transformation of their mental state, and their strength had clearly improved. Currently, Chu Meng had stepped into the 8th level of Yuanfu, while Ouyang Quangxing and Fan Lu had both broken through to the 7th level. In fact, Ouyang Quangxing was already preparing to break through to the 8th level. Not only that, their mandates had also undergone a qualitative transformation. Yun Mingyi was someone who couldn't be underestimated. This time around, her mandates had already reached the perfection boundary. Right now, her cultivation base was at the 9th level of Yuanfu, with all 3 of her mandates at the perfection boundary. Naturally, the ones with the greatest improvements were still Situpa and Qin Wentian. Situpa, at the 9th level of Yuanfu, with 3 mandates at the perfection boundary. Qin Wentian at the 7th level of Yuanfu, with 3 mandates at the perfection boundary. His will was incomparably tough, and his state of heart was unshakable. Those who had left felt extremely depressed in their hearts. They didn't even get to see the battle between the 3 of them. But then again, Qin Wentian was truly amazing. He actually became the #1 contender, defeating Situpa. Sadly, Qin Wentian's cultivation base was too low, and there wasn't much time left until the end of the year. It would be impossible for him to ascend to the heavenly fate rankings at the end of the year. Naturally, Qin Wentian didn't think this way. At this moment, he stopped his cultivation and stood up with a confident smile on his face. If it weren't for this tempering exercise, it would have been extremely difficult for him to improve so much in the short span of a few months. Indeed, this was a very good opportunity for him. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian clasped his hands to the old man beside him as he politely thanked him. You did it yourself, there's no need to thank me, the old man casually replied. Qin Wentian smiled. He guessed that this old man must be an extraordinary character. Junior bids my farewell. Qin Wentian bowed as he prepared to depart. This heavenly steel is yours now, take it away, the old man casually stated, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. This heavenly steel was the divine steel, yet this old man was actually giving it to him? Back then, my master told me that the heavenly steel would belong to whoever could reach the bottom of the heavenly steel. And you've done it. Take it away, the old man impatiently stated. Qin Wentian no longer stood on ceremony. He kept the Yellow Springs Monument and the heavenly steel. However, the mystery in his heart grew even stronger. He wanted to unravel it, but sadly he couldn't. Lifting his feet, Qin Wentian walked down the stairs. The old man held onto his broom as he stared up at the sky. A hint of gentleness could be seen in his eyes, as though he was still thinking of Qin Wentian. In the ancient capital of Ginkgo, the Venerate Heavens sect. It was unknown how many years ago, the Venerate Heavens sect was once known as the Venerate Heavenly Supervisor. It was a department under the control of the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia. At this moment in the Venerate Heavens sect, an old man stared up at the sky. His eyes shone with a resplendent light, piercing through the void, staring at the constellation of Grand Xia. The demon constellation is getting brighter and brighter. The constellation of Grand Xia is filled with the power of the wind and clouds. The constellation of Grand Xia shone resplendently, each contending with their own sharpness. However, within this constellation there's actually a unifying force. The old man's heart trembled. This constellation was something rarely seen in 1,000 years. Chapter 335. The spectators watched as Qin Wentian walked down the steps, their hearts trembling. Without the heavenly steel platform, could it still be called the heavenly steel platform? The heavenly steel was actually given to Qin Wentian. Naturally, the people here had no idea what these 3 heavenly steels were. If not, a terrifying storm would surely erupt. The divine steel, in its name, bore witness to the rise and fall of ancient Grand Xia. Once, countless heroes of ancient Grand Xia had been baptized by it. The divine steel was like an ancient mirror, a scroll of history. On it, the 9 ultimate arts of ancient Grand Xia were inscribed. But now the 9 ultimate arts had split into 9, no longer intersecting with each other. If Qin Wentian had a deeper understanding of the history of ancient Grand Xia, he would have known that there were some transcendent powers in the Grand Xia Empire, whose ultimate arts were none other than the 9 ultimate arts inscribed on the divine steel of ancient Grand Xia. However, although they were still powerful, they no longer had the glory of the past. The ancient Grand Xia of the past was many times stronger compared to the current ancient Grand Xia. One could say that even if all the transcendent powers in the 9 continents joined forces, they still wouldn't be as strong as the ancient Grand Xia of the past. If not, how could the ancient Grand Xia have been able to unify the world? Behind Qin Wentian, the old man was sweeping the stairs once more. Maybe this would be the last time he would sweep the stairs. "Boss, can you lend me the heavenly steel to play with for 2 days?" Fan Lu narrowed his eyes as he watched Qin Wentian walk over. That powerful heavenly steel actually became Qin Wentian's possession. How interesting. Qin Wentian glared at Fan Lu as he walked to the side of Chu Meng and the rest. Glancing at them, he could see that their strength had all improved. This trip to the heavenly steel steps had been extremely fruitful. Shifting his gaze over, Qin Wentian glanced at Situpa, Yu Binging and the rest. Situpa was also looking at him as he calmly stated, "Let's meet again in Ginkgo." As the sound of his voice faded, he left with Yu Binging. Looking into his eyes, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Situpo's killing intent was still as strong as ever. In that case, let's meet again in Ginkgo. Most likely, the people here would all be heading to Ginkgo soon. It wasn't too long until the end of the year. Xianxun, let's go back. Those from the Mystic Maiden Palace also prepared to depart. Xianxun's beautiful eyes turned to Fan Lu as she smiled. "Will you be heading to Ginkgo? Right?" Fan Lu nodded his head. "In that case, let's meet again in the Ginkgo continent." Xianxun smiled sweetly. After that, she left with Xian Yan and the others from the Mystic Maiden Palace. Fan Lu laughed in a silly manner as he scratched his head. Qin Wentian couldn't help but perspire in his heart when he saw this scene. Spring had arrived for Fatty. He had turned silly. Not far away, that white-robed figure was also preparing to depart, only to hear Qin Wentian calling out, "Yunmingi." Yunmingi halted her steps. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered. Appearing beside her as he spoke, "I have something to ask you." After speaking, he pulled on Yunmingi's arm and led her away. Maybe Yunmingi knew some of the mysteries in his heart. Yunmingi furrowed her brows, but when she thought of that person, she relaxed and allowed Qin Wentian to pull her away. This scene caused both Ouyang Guangxing and Fan Lu to be taken aback. Too ferocious. Very ferocious. Ouyang Guangxing nodded his head. Yun Mingyi was as cold as ice. Qin Wentian actually dragged her away to be alone? Qin Wentian walked together with Yun Mingyi as he asked, "Who are you?" Yun Mingyi stared at him as she replied in a cold voice, "Yun Mingyi, you already knew who I was the moment I stepped into the unmatched realm?" Qin Wentian stared into Yun Mingyi's eyes. Yun Mingyi flung his hand away as she replied, "I'm Xia Tianyu." Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened as he stared fixedly at her. "Impossible. You don't believe me?" Yun Mingyi stared at Qin Wentian as a strange smile flickered in her eyes. "Do you believe that I'm your elder sister?" Qin Wentian didn't reply. The current Yun Mingyi gave him a strange feeling. That smile of hers was extremely foreign. Her words had no credibility at all. Only she herself would know whether she was telling the truth or not. "I don't believe you," Qin Wentian replied. "Since that's the case, why do you still need to ask me? After you arrive at Ginkgo, I will look for you." After speaking, Yun Mingyi slowly walked away. The aura she exuded was still as cold as ever. Nobody could guess what she was thinking. "Who?" Qin Wentian exhaled. He still couldn't see through her. Back then, the person his old fogey father brought out from Grand Xia, was it Yun Mingyi? What was the relationship between Yun Mingyi and Xia Tianyu? Why did the divine steel end up in his hands? Was it really because he walked in front of the heavenly steel and obtained the recognition of that old man? That old man himself was a terrifying character. If not, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the pressure from the divine steel. And now, he said that he was obeying the orders of his master. What sort of character was his master? What's wrong? Ouyang Guangxing and the rest walked over when they saw Qin Wentian standing there in a daze. Little Rascal also leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, rubbing its head against his chest. "Nothing." Qin Wentian shook his head. Even he himself wasn't clear about his origins. There was no point in explaining it. He didn't know if this trip to the ancient kingdom would be able to unravel the mystery behind it. "We're almost there. It's about time for us to head to Ginkgo. I'm afraid that those from the Azure continent will also be heading there soon. Ginkgo is now bustling with activity." Ouyang Guangxing laughed, his heart filled with anticipation. Who knew how many geniuses would be gathered for this trip to the ancient capital once every 3 years? It's about time. There's only a few more months left. Qin Wentian felt a sense of urgency in his heart. Although his strength had improved tremendously in this year, it was still impossible for him to become one of the top 3 rankers of the Heavenly Fate rankings. The top 3 rankers were the strongest among the countless peak Yuanfu cultivators. Their mandates had already reached the perfection boundary, and their innate techniques and cultivation arts were all top-notch as well. Not only that, there might even be some who had comprehended a second-level mandate. "Let's make a trip back to the Ouyang aristocrat clan first. I'm afraid there will be many from the Ouyang aristocrat clan heading there." Ouyang Guangxing spoke. Qin Wentian naturally didn't have any objections, and accompanied Ouyang Guangxing back to the Ouyang aristocrat clan. After Ouyang Guangxing reported the situation to his superiors, the Ouyang aristocrat clan issued an order. 7 days later, those who had the qualifications to participate in the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings would all be sent to Ginkgo. At this moment in Ouyang Guangxing's residence, a 3-sided heavenly steel floated in the air. Qin Wentian, Fan Lu, Chu Meng and Ouyang Guangxing were all below the heavenly steel, sensing the ancient will within. "Force, use my strength to attack my body." Qin Wentian's body rushed towards the heavenly steel in the air. Currently, he could already confirm that the 3-sided heavenly steel contained an ancient will, and could unleash and retract its attacks as he wished. "Just a little bit more, I can still withstand even more force." Qin Wentian took a step forward in the air, as thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out. The terrifying force blasted against his body, causing him to spit out fresh blood. Yet in his eyes a resolute determination could be seen. With the presence of the 3-sided heavenly steel, how could they waste any more time? They could feel the pressure and break through their limits. Back then, the divine steel was used to baptize the members of the royal clan of Grand Xia, but now it was being used by Qin Wentian to break through his limits. Ouyang Guangxing, Fan Lu and the rest were all immersed in the torment of the divine steel. Although the pain was excruciating, they could feel their strength and willpower changing little by little. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. Today, the members of the Ouyang aristocrat clan gathered in the vast Dao cultivation grounds. Over here, there were powerful ancient demonic mounts escorting them as they headed towards Ginkgo. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over the crowd. In the vast Dao cultivation grounds, there were at least a few hundred people with a cultivation base at the 9th level of Yuanfu. The number of people in an aristocratic family was innumerable, and there would be no lack of people of any cultivation realm. Of course, the majority of these several hundred people were probably cannon fodder, but one could imagine how many people would descend on Ginkgo this time around. Let's move out. The clan lord of the Ouyang aristocrat clan personally came to send them off. Although the Yuanfu realm was only the strength of the younger generations of an aristocrat clan, those who had undergone the baptism and performed outstandingly would all become the core members of their clan in the future. In the airspace above the Ouyang aristocrat clan, demonic qi towered up into the skies as the ancient demonic beast soared through the air, flying towards the central region of Grand Xia. In the 9 continents of Grand Xia, Ginkgo, Moon Continent and War Continent were the 3 ancient cities that formed a triangular formation, located in the central region of Grand Xia. Among them, Ginkgo was the most powerful. It was the true central region of Grand Xia. Even the countries surrounding Ginkgo were extremely powerful, with experts as common as the clouds. Although the ancient kingdom was destroyed, the ancient capital was still the most flourishing city in the 9 continents. This city had witnessed the rise and fall of Grand Xia's history. In Ginkgo, the demonic beasts howled unceasingly as experts soared through the air. It was as though there was no end to their numbers. These experts were either alone or in groups of 3 to 5, chatting freely in the air as they stared at the ancient city, their hearts surging with passion. And as for those below, when they stared at the skies, their hearts were similarly stirred. At this moment in the air, a group of sword cultivators could be seen soaring through the skies. They were all clad in white, resembling supreme sword immortals, exuding an awe-inspiring aura. Those should be the swallow swordsmen. They're all sword cultivators from the Yin continent. Their robes are clean and simple. There are so many demonic beasts over there. Are they from the transcendent powers of the demon continent? Is it the Sky Demon sect or the Beast King Hall? Who are those people? What a powerful formation. They're definitely from a transcendent power. The gazes of those in the crowd turned to a certain direction, where many people could be seen, only to see a silhouette standing there proudly, as though he could be found in the crowd with a single glance. That's Hua Taishu. I've seen him before. He's the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, Hua Taishu. But now that he's already broken through to Heavenly Dipper, he shouldn't be participating in the ranking battle this time around. But even so, he's still a legend. Yeah, those from the Hua clan have arrived. That transcendent power beside them should also be from the Moon continent. With such an imposing manner, other than the Pill Emperor Hall, there shouldn't be any other. Many in the crowd sighed in admiration. They searched the Pill Emperor Hall, and soon after they saw a few outstanding characters. That young man with golden eyes, I think he's Zhan Chun. I heard that he cultivated an ascendance cultivation art, causing his strength to increase to an incomparably terrifying level. There's even a rumor that he intentionally suppressed his cultivation base, all for the sake of becoming the top ranker of the Heavenly Fate rankings, causing his name to shake the entire Grand Xia. Who's that young woman? What a beauty, her beauty can topple empires. That woman is none other than the daughter of the Pill Emperor, Mo Qingcheng, the disciple of Luo He. She's very low profile, and very few people know of her. But in the Moon continent, her name can shake the heavens. Countless voices filled the skies of the Ginkgo continent. In the ancient capital of Grand Xia, where the elites of the 9 continents gathered, there were naturally countless topics to talk about. Chapter 336. In the Ginkgo continent, the various inns and restaurants were bustling with activity. These days there were simply too many customers. Not only did the major powers of Grand Xia arrive, even the major characters of the Grand Xia Empire wanted to take a look at this banquet. At this moment on the streets of the Ginkgo continent, a few silhouettes could be seen strolling about. Among them were 2 young maidens, both extremely beautiful and exceptionally eye-catching. However, the person behind them exuded a cold and gloomy aura, causing others to not dare to approach him. But strangely, the person in the middle of the two maidens was actually an ordinary-looking old man. His aura was extremely weak, as though he was an ordinary mortal. The Ginku continent is truly flourishing. The old man stared at the towering buildings in his surroundings, as a myriad of emotions surfaced in his heart. He couldn't help but feel somewhat amused as he thought back to the matters he was so stubborn about in the past. Chu Sky Harmony City, in the face of the vastness of the 9 continents, was as insignificant as an ant. The people here, even those who casually strolled about on the streets, were all existences he had once regarded as lofty existences. His horizons had changed and his heart had also changed. Autumn Snow, you have to work hard and learn from your younger sister. This world is truly too vast. Bai Qingsong sighed. Autumn Snow nodded her head. Father, I will work hard. But if I want to catch up to my younger sister, I'm afraid it's impossible. Elder sister, you have to have more confidence in yourself. The beautiful lady beside Autumn Snow laughed. This lady had a tall and slender figure, even taller than Autumn Snow. Her figure was extremely well proportioned, and her skin was as white as snow. She was an extremely beautiful lady, and yet her eyes gave off a depth that didn't match her age. It was as though she had experienced many things. This young maiden was Autumn Snow's younger sister, Bai Qing. Currently, her status in the Mystic Moon Hall was extraordinary, and she had brought her family over to the Mystic Moon Hall. Confidence. Autumn Snow lightly shook her head. I wonder if he will come to Grand Xia. Thinking of him, a faint smile appeared on Autumn Snow's younger sister's face. After experiencing so many things, she had long since let go of everything. She also felt regret for what she had done in the past. Not only her father Bai Qingsong had also let go of everything, and didn't blame Qin Wentian for crippling him. And because of this, Bai Qing was able to reunite with her parents, and their family was reunited. Bai Qingsong was stunned for a moment. Then, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Sometimes I really want to go back to the past. If I didn't do those things for my own selfish reasons, perhaps you and him would also be an enviable couple. Okay, it's all in the past. You guys don't have to bring it up. Bai Qing interjected, causing Bai Qingsong to smile and shake his head. Let's not talk about it, it's all in the past. Bai Qing's gaze was fixed on the horizon as she mused in her heart. Back then during the refinement grounds at the Celestial Lake, Wentian Gij had already broken through to Yuanfu. Now, after such a long time, her cultivation base had already reached the 8th level of Yuanfu. Although it was due to her own hard work and experience, Wentian Gij was more outstanding than her. He shouldn't be weaker than her, right? As she thought of this, a faint smile flickered in Bai Qing's eyes. At this moment, she exuded an innocent beauty. On the main road, Qin Wentian sneezed and whispered, "Who's thinking of me? Don't be so smug, boss." Fan Li's lips twitched. Do you think I'm the one? There's always someone thinking of me. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes. Little rascal in his embrace also flipped its body, as though it couldn't bear it anymore. This caused Fan Lu to smack it lightly on its little head. They arrived at Ginku yesterday, and early in the morning, Fatty suggested that they go out for a stroll. There were many inns and inns in this area, and the main road they were on was exceedingly wide, able to accommodate over 100 people walking side by side. Demonic beasts constantly flitted past them, and shops could be seen on both sides of the road. Occasionally on the main road, they would encounter groups of people with extraordinary auras. The majority of these people were from major powers and were filled with confidence. Who are these people? They all exude an aura of sharpness, akin to unsheathed swords. Qin Wentian glanced at the silhouettes of a group of youths as he asked Ouyang Quangsheng, people from the War Continent. There are many transcendent powers in the War Continent that are proficient in weaponsmithing. The innate techniques and cultivation arts they cultivate are all complemented by divine weapons. Hence, their aura is extremely sharp. Ouyang Quangsheng replied. Not only that, the War Continent isn't too far away from Ginku. Together with Ginku and the Moon Continent, they are considered the most powerful of the 3 continents in Grand Xia. That's why I feel a sense of superiority. The 36 transcendent powers of the 9 continents should all be here, right? Qin Wentian asked in a low voice. Ouyang Quangxing nodded his head. Naturally, the 9 mystical palace and Green Cloud Pavilion would also send their people over. You should be more familiar with those places. After all, Chu is the closest to the Qing continent. The 9 mystical palace couldn't be said to be familiar with them, but he had indeed interacted with them several times before. Now, if he were to meet people from the 9 mystical palace, there was something he had to clarify. As for the Green Cloud Pavilion, the only people he had interacted with were Senior Gong Hong and Qian Mangyu. Currently, he didn't know how Gong Hong was doing. Not long after Gong Hong left Chu, Qin Wentian headed towards the Moon continent. Even if Gong Hong returned to Chu in the future, he wouldn't be able to find Qin Wentian. Chu! Qin Wentian felt a trace of worry in his heart. Chu was a weak country, yet there were so many people he missed so much. Qingcheng from the Pill Emperor Hall. This time around she should be here as well. Qin Wentian silently mused. Qingcheng was highly regarded by the Pill Emperor Hall, and was nurtured as a core disciple. Luo he was extremely fond of her, and Mo Qingcheng's strength definitely wouldn't be any slower than his. How fragrant! At this moment, a fragrant aroma drifted over. Fan Le took a deep breath as he narrowed his eyes, searching for the source of the fragrance. Over there. Chu Meng pointed to a luxurious inn in front of them. A banner could be seen fluttering in the wind, with a few words written on it. Drunken Immortal Lodge. Good name. Ouyang Quangxing laughed. Come, let's go and drink a few cups. Right, I want to drink a few cups as well. Beside Ouyang Quangxing, Ouyang Xiaolu blinked her eyes, causing Ouyang Quangxing to glare at her. This has nothing to do with you. Let's drink, women eat meat. Humph. Ouyang Xiaolu glared at Ouyang Quangxing. When I see elder sister Ting, I will get her to help me deal with you. The elder sister Ting that Ouyang Xiaolu was referring to wasn't Ouyang Ting, but rather Ouyang Quangxing's fiancée Jiang Ting. As a descendant of a transcendent power in the Wind continent, Jiang Ting would naturally come as well. Che, we still don't know who will be the one to deal with who. Ouyang Quangxing curled his lips. Really? Do you dare to say that again? Ouyang Xiaolu disdainfully retorted. If that last Jiang Ting is here, I will definitely teach her a good lesson. How about it? Ouyang Quangxing's voice rang out. As the sound of his voice faded, a smile appeared on Ouyang Xiaolu's face, causing Ouyang Quangxing to feel a sense of unease. Abruptly he turned, only to see a beautiful silhouette standing behind him. Qin Wentian and Fan Le didn't even need to turn their heads to know who was there. Their faces were filled with sympathy as they stared at Ouyang Quangxing. You guys. Ouyang Quangxing knew that he had been tricked. These fellows seemed to know everything. How disloyal. Ever since they parted at the Celestial Lake Palace, Qin Wentian hadn't seen Jiang Ting again. Now that she had matured, her figure was slender and elegant, exuding an aura of femininity. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at Ouyang Quangxing, causing him to laugh heartily. Ting-er, you're here. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't this smelly lass tell me? Humph. Jiang Ting let Ouyang Quangxing hug empty air as she walked past him. Ouyang Quangxing trembled as he followed after her, laughing. I was only joking earlier, just joking. Seeing this scene, Qin Wentian and the rest all laughed as they entered the Drunken Immortal Lodge. After which, they found a good table on the second floor by the window and sat down, chatting away as they drank. The inn was filled to the brim with guests, chatting about everything under the heavens. However, at this moment, no one knew that this unremarkable table of people would cause a tempest in Grand Xia in the future. Outside the Drunken Immortal Inn, there was a continuous stream of people entering. At this moment, a group of people entered. Among these people there were 3 males and 3 females. Among the 3 females, one of them was slightly shorter and had an ordinary countenance, as though she had a sense of inferiority. She followed behind the group of people and didn't speak at all. The one who spoke the most had a hint of flirtatiousness to her. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, as though she was exceptionally intelligent. Not only that, she had a voluptuous figure, and her peaks were half exposed, causing people to drool over her. However, the most dazzling person was none other than the last female. She had an innate sexiness to her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a sense of charm, and her vermilion lips were slightly pursed. She didn't speak much, but her beauty was absolutely breathtaking. It was as though she was born with an innate charm, causing even women to be jealous of her. Yangxia, don't worry. There will be a brother from my clan arriving soon. We will treat him to a meal and get him to put in a good word for us. It definitely wouldn't be a problem for us to enter the Pill Emperor Hall for cultivation. One of the young men stared at the half-exposed female, his eyes involuntarily staring at the snow-white ravine, as though he wanted to peek at the scenery within. How strong is this Pill Emperor Hall? Yang Xia was filled with anticipation. A transcendent power, the Pill Emperor Hall. In the Moon Continent there's a transcendent power, the Pill Emperor Hall. Who in the 9 continents wouldn't fear them? Hence, all the transcendent powers would have to seek help from the Pill Emperor Hall. Among the transcendent powers, the Pill Emperor Hall can be ranked within the top 3. The young man boasted, and as they spoke, they found a seat on the 2nd floor and sat down. That brother of mine is named Jingyu. His talent is outstanding and has already entered the tutelage of the daughter of the Pill Emperor Luo He. When he arrives, all of you better speak to him properly. He's a genius of the Pill Emperor Hall, a true major character. The young man seriously spoke, his words causing a brilliant light to flash in Yang Xia's eyes. She pulled down her robes, revealing her snow-white ravine. This time it was an opportunity for her. Her gaze inadvertently shifted onto the beautiful young woman beside her as a hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. This woman was born with an innate charm, even more alluring than her. She was a threat to her. What did you say? Yang Xia stared at the beautiful young woman as she asked. Given the Pill Emperor Hall's power, it's only natural that they would be extremely strict. How can they rely on such methods to pass? The beautiful young woman laughed. While they were discussing about the Pill Emperor Hall, Qin Wenqian's gaze instantly landed on the back of a young woman. Upon hearing her words, a radiant smile flickered in Qin Wenqian's eyes. Happiness and warmth. As though she had sensed something, the beautiful young woman turned around. An instant later, her body trembled violently as her beautiful eyes froze in place. Little rascal, it's been a few years since we last met. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.